I declare open the joint second meeting of the Conference of the Parties. The second meeting of the Conference of the Parties serving as the meeting of the parties to the Kyoto Protocol, and the second meeting of the Conference of the Parties serving as the meeting of the parties to the Paris Agreement. Distinguished delegates, I give the floor to the Chair of SUBSTA. Adonia, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished delegates, I declare open the second meeting of the subsidiary body for scientific and technological advice. Distinguished delegates, I give the floor to the chair of SBI. Julia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Adonia. Distinguished delegates, I declare open the second meeting of the subsidiary body for implementation. I now give the floor back to the President.
Dear colleagues, we will begin the plenary with statements from groups of parties. After hearing the statements from groups, the floor will be open for statements from individual parties, followed by statements from the observers. I encourage groups of parties, individual parties, and observers to keep their statements succinct and within the respective time limit. Please note, you are welcome to upload the full text of any statement on the submission portal. A button has been provided on the session web pages to link directly to the plenary statements, allowing easier uploading and access. You will hear a bell when you have used up the time allotted for your statement. Additionally, in line with the practice of other UN bodies and to ensure the smooth conduct of the meeting, microphones will be automatically turned off when the allotted time is exceeded. I appeal to parties to stay in the room while the observers deliver their statements. I will now invite statements from the four groups with non-overlapping memberships. I encourage you to keep your statements to a maximum of 5 minutes. I now invite the delegation of Iraq to deliver a statement on behalf of the Group of 77 and China. Iraq, you have the floor.
Ambassador Andrew DeLego, distinguished presidencies and chairs of the subsidiary bodies, Iraq deems it an honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the Group of 77 and China. The Group of 77 and China would like to thank the government of Brazil for their hospitality, extended and their work in preparation for COP30, with a view toward a successful outcome. Group of 77 in China thanks also the COP29 presidency of Azerbaijan for the successful COP29 in Baku, as well as their continued leadership in the lead up to COP30. Kindly note that in the interest of time, I will share this statement, which is a summarized version of our statement, and the complete version will be shared thereafter. 2025 marked 10 years since the adoption of the Paris Agreement, which is built on the principles and provisions of the Convention. It's important to question how much of these negotiations have transpired into real tangible action. In this context, the G77 and China places significant importance on the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement. We underscore that meaningful climate action must be tailored to the diverse national circumstances of developing countries and advocate for meaningful climate action driven by the scaled-up means of implementation. Scaling up climate finance in accordance with the principles and provisions of UNFCCC and Paris Agreement form the core of the priorities for G7 and China. In this context, Group of 77 and China welcomes decisions on new collective quantitative goals at COP29 and calls for its full and timely delivery by developed countries. The group emphasizes that $300 billion remain significantly insufficient to meet the needs of developing countries in their just effort to combat climate change. Therefore, developed countries must significantly scale up the provisions of climate finance and means of implementation to enable ambitious and urgent climate action at the scale and speed required. Furthermore, we emphasize the importance of operationalizing the CMA's decision to urge the operating entities of the financial mechanism and other funds to at least triple their annual outflow of the operating entities by 2030, with a significant increase of public resources provided through the funds. Group of 77 China expresses grave concern regarding the application of unilateral and contradictory policies on the project proposal by UNEDO on behalf of the Sultan of Oman in the Green Climate Fund. On the GGA, the Group of 77 in China highlights the importance of reaching successful outcomes, which includes means of implementation. Furthermore, it is equally important to operationalize the Baku Adaptation Road and further advance and alleviate adaptation and implementation of GAGA under the UAE framework for global climate resilience beyond 2030. The group stresses that the GSD's process has a clearly defined core purpose under the Paris Agreement Article 14 and emphasizes that the discussion on GSD's refinement should focus on what will help improve the effectiveness of the GSDs in achieving its core purpose. On the agenda item of WIM review at COP30, the outcome should strengthen the coordination, coherence and complementarity between the WIM with its executive committee and its San Diego network and the Fund for Response and Loss and Damage. On the just transition, G77 in China calls for a strong outcome on just transition and fully reflect on the development realities and aspiration of developing countries. Group of 77 in China highlight that the transition to the enhanced transparency framework should serve to enhance implementation of the Convention, not undermine nor create any backsliding from the existing reporting and review rules and so on. On response measures, we welcome the productive dialogue held this year and recognize its vital role in ensuring work effort take into account the impact of different responses measures. In closing, we will continue to stress that measures to address climate change, including
Thank you very much, G77 and China. I now invite the European Union to deliver the statement. Denmark, you have the floor.
We are delivering this statement on behalf of the European Union and its 27 member states. We gather in the beautiful city of Belem at a moment when the science could not be clearer and the stakes could not be higher. Hurricane Melissa in the Caribbean and the recent super typhoons in the Philippines remind us of what climate change already means for lives and livelihoods. Our thoughts are with the communities who suffered devastating losses. Their resilience must strengthen our collective resolve. The EU comes to COP30 with that determination. The EU and its member states submitted its 2035 NDC to reduce net greenhouse gas emissions by 66.25 to 72.5% below 1990 levels by 2035. This is an ambitious milestone on the path to a 90% net reduction by 2040 compared to 1990 levels, leading the way towards climate neutrality by 2050 and aligned with the Paris goals. The Paris Agreement has shown that multilateralism delivers results, but we must all do our best to go further and faster. Ambition and international cooperation must be reflected in the COP30 outcomes. Firstly, through a negotiated response plan for enhancing the collective ambition and implementation of our NDCs. The NDC synthesis report revealed many quality improvements in the design of the new NDCs, and evidence is also present in the BTRs. However, efforts remain insufficient to keep 1.5 within reach. All parties, and especially major economies, must show leadership through stronger policies and faster delivery. We must accelerate action through innovation, growth, and competitiveness, as well as the full implementation of the outcomes and guidance from the first global stocktake. Annual consideration of the NDC and BTR synthesis report is needed to maintain momentum. In parallel, we must encourage the scaling up of partnerships and plurilateral initiatives under the action agenda as expressed of cooperation and commitment to act faster and more resolute. Secondly, by building resilience and preparedness everywhere, we need to accelerate adaptation action and finalize the work on indicators to track progress towards the global goal on adaptation. Linking climate action and sustainable development is critical for countries to prepare for and respond to climate impacts and inform about collective progress. Thirdly, by reaffirming our collective commitment to deliver on the new collective quantified goals set in Baku. All actors are called to work together to enable the scaling up of finance for climate action to developing countries from all sources to at least reach 1.3 trillion per year by 2035. We need to mobilize climate finance to at least $300 billion a year by 2035, and we need to urgently improve access, in particular for LDCs and SIDS, and for adaptation. In 2024, the EU and its member states provided 31.8 billion euro of public finance and mobilized 11 billion euro of private finance to support climate action in developing countries. The EU and its member states, together with the European Investment Bank, are the largest providers of international public climate finance. We thank the COP29 and COP30 presidencies for the Baku to Belem roadmap, for highlighting solutions and presenting a coherent framework that can guide our collective action, accelerate implementation, and ensure that broader climate finance becomes a key instrument for the achievement of the Paris goals. Likewise, we must reach agreement on the modalities of the UAE dialogue, where parties can reflect on the implementation of the GST, identify barriers, enablers for action, and strengthen cooperation across all pillars of the Paris Agreement. We must secure an outcome that advances the Just Transition Work Programme, placing vulnerable workers, communities, and households at its heart, ensuring it becomes a space for shared experience and mutual learning on how to implement just transition domestically. After 3 years of dialogue on the 21C, COP30 also has the opportunity to advance towards making finance flows consistent with the Paris Agreement, including by agreeing to a standing mandate to track progress. Finally, we must reach agreement on the new Gender Action Plan. Advancing gender equality is not only a question of justice, it's a key enabler of effective climate action and a driver of resilience in communities around the world. Each of these outcomes matters in its own right, but together they define the credibility of our work here in Belem. The EU stands ready to engage constructively with all partners to ensure an ambitious delivery across the board. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, EU. I would like to invite the Environmental Integrity Group to deliver the statement. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have the honor to speak on behalf of the Environmental Integrity Group. Chair, Excellencies, dear colleagues, we meet at a defining moment. Science is clear. The window to keep 1.5 alive is closing. Current NDCs fall short, demonstrating an ambition gap that needs to be closed. These are serious setbacks, but it is not a story of despair. The energy transition is underway. Renewables now dominate new power generation, showing that markets and innovation are transitioning away from fossil fuels. We celebrate those who have submitted ambitious NDCs. 10 years after Paris, that agreement helped to bend global temperature trajectories, reduce renewable costs, and unlock trillions in clean investments. Policies are stronger and more effective. The Paris Agreement works, and we must make it work fully. Yet the latest synthesis report confirms that current NDCs deliver only a 17% reduction below 2019 levels when science calls for 60% by 2035. The ambition and implementation gap demands a structured political and technical response under the Paris process to accelerate action before 2030. And yet, there is still no dedicated space to collectively assess the progress towards NDCs, implementation and ambition, and to agree on follow-up actions. This year marks 25 years of the Environment Integrity Group. 25 years of bridge building and commitment to science and environmental integrity. Our group is deeply concerned by growing pushback against science from some quarters. Science is not negotiable. It must remain the foundation of our work. The next global stocktake must stay anchored in evidence, even when that evidence is uncomfortable. Here in the Amazon, COP30 must deliver for forests. The world is off track to halt and reverse deforestation by 2030. We must protect, conserve, and sustainably manage these vital ecosystems, learning from one another to achieve our climate, biodiversity, and development goals. We are alarmed by the global loss of forest sinks and the rising pressure on nature everywhere. COP30 must also mark a new era for our adaptation. Agreed indicators and the robust national adaptation plans are key to measuring and driving progress. The more countries that report using these indicators, the clearer our global picture will be and the stronger our collective response. This is about building resilience and opportunities for all. We also welcome the progress on loss and damage. It is essential to strengthen coherence across the loss and damage architecture, ensuring that the Santiago Network, the new fund, and the WIM work in a coordinated and complementary way. Recommitting to the Paris Agreement also means unlocking the climate finance required for ambitious NDCs, 1.5 pathways, and global resilience. Those most affected by climate change must have access to the support they need. The EIG stands by the new collective quantified goal on climate finance, and all members of our group will support its realization in their respective roles as recipients, providers, or both. Finally, we must align all financial flows with low-emission, climate-resilient development pathways. The outcome of the Sharm el-Sheikh dialogue should reflect real-world needs, engage all actors, and build on existing experiences to drive investments toward a climate-safe future. We believe the co-chair's report and its recommendations are a good starting point. Colleagues, the world looks for us for direction. 10 years after Paris and 25 years after the founding of the EIG, let us show that unity is stronger than division and that science still guides us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Switzerland. I would like to invite now the umbrella group to deliver a statement. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished colleagues. I'm speaking on behalf of Umbrella Group members present at COP30. 10 years from the Paris Agreement, we have made significant progress. We've moved the world from a catastrophic 4 degrees of warming to 2.3 to 2.5 degrees based on currently assessed 2035 NDCs. Almost all countries have committed to net zero and most have lodged successive emissions reduction targets. Global investment in clean energy is growing exponentially and was at $2 trillion per year in 2024. We have more to do, but we should recognise the Paris Agreement is working. It has and will continue to drive some of the biggest changes in our economic and energy systems since the Industrial Revolution, and in the process, it is creating economic opportunity and supporting global prosperity. At the same time, it's clear our efforts must accelerate to keep 1.5 degrees within reach. COP30 must demonstrate our unwavering commitment to the Paris Agreement and our commitment to do more together. We must deliver a strong outcome on 1.5 and NDCs at COP30 that reflects the progress made, demonstrates our collective commitment to closing the gap to 1.5, and highlights opportunities to accelerate climate ambition and implementation. The implementation of the global stocktake across all pillars of Paris must include the full operationalisation of the UAE dialogue. Our work must continue to be informed by the best available science, and parties must support the IPCC to deliver outputs of the 7th assessment cycle in time to inform the second global stocktake. We welcome the first BTRs, a significant step towards implementation and a significant step towards building trust in our collective efforts. The mitigation work programme can profile practical opportunities and address barriers to reduce emissions in the forest and waste sectors, and prepare us for a successful review of the work programme next year. We will work with parties to adopt indicators to track progress towards the global goal on adaptation, and we thank the experts for their work. We celebrate the first call for funding requests from the Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage, and look forward to completing the review of the Warsaw International Mechanism. We recognise the significant outcome on the NCQG last year, including its importance for adaptation finance. We reaffirm the role of developed countries to take the lead in delivery of at least $300 billion per year by 2035. We are committed to working together in the context of a global effort to scale up financing to developing countries to at least $1.3 trillion by 2035. We must further complement the delivery of the NCQG with accelerated efforts to make finance flows consistent with a pathway towards low emissions and climate resilient development. There is an opportunity at Belem to take forward this work to accelerate investment toward the Paris goals. Outcomes on the Just Transition Work Programme should drive forward inclusive action and implementation to accelerate 1.5 aligned pathways to net zero and resilient societies, including on the energy transition. We very much welcome the positive engagement in agriculture, including in the action agenda. We must finalise a new gender action plan that is ambitious, implementable, and drives mainstreaming of gender-responsive climate action. We welcome efforts to promote the rights of Indigenous peoples and the rights of children and youth in climate action. And finally, Chair, we all countries in the Umbrella Group at this session affirm their united support for Australia's proposal to host COP31 in 2026 in partnership with the Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Australia. I will now open the floor for statements from other groups for a maximum of 5 minutes, and I invite Venezuela to speak on behalf of ALBA. Venezuela, please.
Gracias, presidente. Tengo el honor de hacer esta intervención en nombre de Cuba, Venezuela, países miembros del ALBA. Nos sumamos a lo expresado por el G77 y China y el Grupo de Países en Desarrollo de Pensamiento Afín. América Latina y el Caribe es uno de los territorios más vulnerables del planeta como consecuencia de los efectos del cambio climático, y los países del ALBA sufren los impactos crónicos y graduales del cambio climático, lo cual está repercutiendo y paralizando los avances en el desarrollo sostenible en armonía con la naturaleza y la lucha contra la pobreza. Todo ello en un contexto global de crisis financiera, energética, climática, alimentaria, institucional, de paz y de seguridad internacionales. Esto representa un reto importante que debemos enfrentar, pero no podemos hacerlo solos. La respuesta al cambio climático debe ser integral, justa y multidimensional para que pueda ser sostenible y transformadora, pensada y ejecutada en el beneficio de nuestros pueblos. El derecho al desarrollo de nuestros pueblos será siempre una prioridad. A 10 años de la adopción del Acuerdo de París, es menester que todos trabajemos juntos, reflexionando y concretando acciones en conjunto, en mutirao, para luchar contra esa visión generada por el modelo capitalista depredador. Es urgente transformar el pensamiento y el accionar global para lo cual es necesario escuchar y trabajar juntos en favor de nuestros pueblos, quienes sufren de cerca los embates del cambio climático y la falta de voluntad política de los países desarrollados de tomar acciones concretas en contra del desarrollo. Es más requerido que nunca. Debemos dejar de lado los dobles discursos y que esta COP sea la COP de la verdad. Es momento de realmente implementar la Convención y el Acuerdo de París con voluntad política, no intentar renegociarlo por la vía de facto. Hemos visto que los países desarrollados siguen eludiendo su responsabilidad de aportar sus promesas en materia de financiamiento climático y que se ha demostrado que es totalmente insuficiente para asumir las necesidades de los países en desarrollo en mitigación, adaptación y daños y pérdidas. Es preocupante la conducta de los países desarrollados que no desean ni siquiera conversar sobre este asunto, eludiendo la incorporación del tema en agenda y evadiendo cualquier involucramiento real en temas relacionados. Y eso es grave, ya que afecta el futuro de toda la humanidad. Es momento de trabajar en favor del multilateralismo real, verdadero, que involucre a todos los sectores de la sociedad. Todos pueden aportar en esta heroica tarea de promover la defensa de los derechos de la Madre Tierra, la justicia climática y, sobre todo, defender y promover el derecho al desarrollo de los pueblos en el contexto de la crisis climática capitalista y avanzar en los procesos de transición justa que tanto requerimos para erradicar la pobreza. Hablemos de realidades, del día a día del ciudadano y del impacto que tienen las consecuencias de la imposición de medidas coercitivas unilaterales que representan un crimen de lesa humanidad que abarca un amplio espectro, incluyendo los aspectos comerciales, constituyéndose en acciones que afectan de forma directa e indirecta las capacidades para responder a la crisis climática y en las capacidades de respuesta de los Estados para garantizar el derecho al desarrollo y los derechos básicos. Y sobre esto hay países que no desean hablar en este encuentro. ¿A qué le temen? ¿A la verdad? La COP en Brasil representará la oportunidad única para tener compromisos más ambiciosos, realistas y sobre todo sinceros en materia de adaptación, pérdidas, daños, mitigación y provisión de medios e implementación, incluida la financiación climática, la transferencia de tecnologías y la creación de capacidades. Para el ALBA es fundamental un multilateralismo inclusivo, participativo, basado en la cooperación que convoque a todos a debatir el futuro común sobre la base de la equidad. Finalmente, hacemos un llamado a los países para unir esfuerzos y tener la voluntad política para lograr avances importantes. Desde Venezuela, ante las amenazas bélicas irracionales en el Caribe, abogamos por la paz y el derecho a la soberanía de los pueblos.
Muchas gracias, Venezuela. I now invite Palau to speak on behalf of AOSIS. Palau, you have the floor. Palau? No. So I will then invite India to speak on behalf of LMDC and BASIC. India, you will have the floor to speak first for LMDC, then I will call on you again to speak for BASIC. If not, you're going to have only one slot. So please, India for LMDC. India.
Mr. President, we congratulate you on your appointment and thank you for the successful opening of the COP30. We associate ourselves with the statement made by Iraq for G77 in China. COP30 marks important milestones. It is 10 years of the Paris Agreement and 33 years of the Convention. The fact that all of us are gathered here is a testament to our commitment to multilateralism and international cooperation. Presidency and presiding officers, while celebrating milestones, it is important to reaffirm what we stand for and who we stand for in the process. We, the LMDC, speak here for over half the world's population. As we celebrate multilateralism, we must be cognizant of the factor that can seriously undermine multilateralism. This is the most opportune moment to meaningfully discuss climate change, related trade restrictive unilateral measures, and how they impact our countries. In this era of implementation, the means are among some of the biggest deterrents for developing countries. And that is why we have presented our proposal for an agenda item on Article 9.1 of the Paris Agreement, which speaks to the legal obligations of the developing countries to provide finance to developing countries for mitigation and adaptation. However, in the spirit of extreme compromise and as a reaffirmation of our support and commitment to the process, we accepted discussing issues very dear to our heart, both unilateral trade measures and implementation of the Article 9.1 of the Paris Agreement in informal presidency consultation, and we trust these will bear fruitful outcomes under your leadership, Mr. President. This occasion also makes it an imperative to not use the 10-year milestone to change the very architecture of the Paris Agreement. We must remain committed to and guided by equity and common but differentiated responsibilities, the cornerstone principles of the Convention and its Paris Agreement. All of us signed us to the CBDR in Brazil back in 1992. We must reaffirm our strongest commitment to the principles here, not attempt to sideline and ignore it. Over the next 2 weeks, we must stay true to the cause and advance adaptation, which is among the most important issues for us. Adaptation finance needs are ever increasing, and a huge adaptation finance gap stares us in the face. Reports state that needs exceed nearly 15 times the existing finance flows. We are also not on track to double international public adaptation finance, a meager sum to begin with, by 2025. On the GGA, the means of implementation indicators must reflect the progress of finance, technology, transfer, and capacity building provided by developed countries to developing countries in line with Article 9, 10, and 11 of the Paris Agreement. The Presidency must make a special call to the parties to submit their national adaptation plan in line with national priorities and progress, including providing adequate support for preparation and implementation of the NAPs. On just transition, we must establish here institutional arrangements that systematically integrate the principles of the UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement in the implementation of the JTWP. We also look forward to the launch of the Technology Implementation Program as a key catalyst to drive ambitious means of implementation to developing countries to implement their NDCs and to strengthen support for the implementation of technology priorities identified by the developing countries, as well as to address key barriers to technology transfers from the developed countries. Mr. President, means of implementation are necessary to unlock ambition in developing countries. Since this is a COP of truth, let us affirm the truth. We are not here to point fingers, but the facts speak for themselves. We cannot simply bypass the roadblocks and the impediments to implementation. Let us address them meaningfully and collectively. We assure you of our complete support and take this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to work constructively and collectively for the greater good of the Mother Earth and our people. We thank you.
Chair. Thank you, India. So, India for basic.
Thank you, Chair. As India takes the floor on behalf of the basic group of countries, I take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to the COP30 President, André Correa de Lago, and express deep appreciation to the Presidency, Government of Brazil, and also to the people of Port City of Belem for their extremely gracious hospitality and excellent arrangements. At the outset, we express our full and unwavering support for multilateralism and international cooperation on climate change, particularly in the current geopolitical context. We reiterate the significance of the full, effective and sustained implementation of the Convention and its Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement in accordance with the principles of equity and CBDRRC. This COP is being organized 10 years after the Paris Agreement was signed and has now evolved to incorporate all its multifaceted dimensions to achieve its key objectives. Successive COPs have focused on key themes of the agreement. If COP28 was the GST COP and COP29 was the COP for finance, COP30 should be the COP of adaptation. Adaptation is the most pressing necessity for billions of the most vulnerable worldwide, the majority of whom have contributed the least to global warming, but will suffer the most from its impacts. Its impacts are local and immediate and affecting the overwhelming majority of these billions of people residing in the developing nations. COP30 needs to deliver a strong outcome on the global goal on adaptation, and we should all agree on a minimum package of indicators from the UAE Belem work program, including the provisions of means of implementation, while demonstrating flexibility and reserving some of the remaining indicators for further technical discussions as deemed necessary. We need to send an inspiring message to the world with the Baku adaptation roadmap that we are on our way to achieving the safety and well-being of billions, leaving no one behind. There is a need to provide a platform for continuous cooperation, support, and exchange of experiences and knowledge. Above all, we need to strengthen and intensify the commensurate flow of public finances towards meeting the adaptation needs. As we mark the 10th year since the adaptation of the Paris Agreement, we recognize the unfulfilled tasks in climate finance. Our needs and expectations regarding the key enablers for climate action, such as the provision of means of implementation, including climate finance, remain the key barrier to attaining the higher ambitions of keeping the Paris goals within reach. There is an urgent need for clear, transparent and universally agreed definition of climate finance under the UNFCCC and Paris Agreement to ensure not only predictability, accessibility, transparency and trust in financial flows, but to also ensure scale, scope and speed of finance. As the Presidency has indicated, we have a number of mandates to fulfill at COP30. India and other basic partners are committed to working with you, Excellency, in the successful conclusion of these agenda items. The successful conclusion of the GST at COP28 was a welcome affirmation that we are now seriously implementing the Paris Agreement. But we must remain faithful to its architecture, hence revising and updating the indices as informed by the first global stock take is left to parties in accordance with the Paris Agreement. Any exchange of how parties are enhancing the indices should remain a dialogue and exchange of experiences and best practices. At this juncture, when we need to speak in one voice to strengthen multilateralism, we must ensure that we do not even inadvertently undermine the architecture of the Paris Agreement. Excellencies, the basic countries are proud of their contribution to global climate action, the transition to clean and renewable energy, and the pursuit of low-carbon development. However, we cannot ignore the responsibility of developed countries, both historically and in the present. They need to reach net zero much earlier than projected to release the remaining carbon space in favor of developing countries, invest significantly more in negative emission technologies, and fulfill their obligations under the Convention and its Paris Agreement, as regards providing the means of implementation to the Global South. Excellency, we are fully with the Presidency in ensuring a successful outcome for the United Arab Emirates Just Transition Work Programme. The JTWP is very important for developing countries. It should serve as a vehicle to strengthen the implementation of the principles of equity and justice in climate change mitigation and adaptation, encompassing a whole of economy and the whole of society approach, thereby leaving no one behind. COP30 must also deliver a strong outcome for the technology implementation program, with increasing climate impacts in addition to existing development deficits. The needs of billions of people in the Global South cannot be met without reliable, affordable and equitable access.
Thank you, India. I now invite Tanzania to speak on behalf of the African group. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I hope we will start again. Excellencies, Mr. President, the United Republic of Tanzania has the pleasure to speak on behalf of the African Group and its 54 member states on this important occasion. We want to thank the government of Brazil and the people of Belem for their hospitality and the preparation of the COP. We would also like to extend our warm congratulations to you, Mr. President, for the assumption of the presidency of COP30. The group would also like to congratulate the COP29 presidency and the team for their leadership and commitment for advancing milestone decisions under the UNFCCC. Let us also express our gratitude to the UNFCCC Secretariat for their continued support to COP30. Mr. President, today, more than 3 decades later, we return to Brazil with renewed conviction that materialism remains the most powerful tool to address the intertwined challenges of climate change and sustainable development. As the African Group also celebrates 30 years since its establishment, we remain committed to working with you to address climate change under the multilateral fora. Mr. President, climate finance remains important for the continent. Therefore, COP30 should advance climate finance. Climate fund is not optional. It is the cornerstone of implementation of our NDCs, NAPs, and long-term strategies. We are submitting our NDCs without clarity on how they will be financed and without enhanced international cooperation and support, which should actually result in commitment to ensure the implementation of all actions we all agree. Therefore, Belem must deliver concrete guidance and decision to operationalize finance obligations under both the Convention and the agreement, the Paris Agreement. COP30 must create space for solutions that ensure finance is grant-based, predictable, accessible, and highly concessional. Belem must agree on the final step to ensure that full transition to the Adaptation Fund to exclusively save the Paris Agreement, including the necessary arrangements, must be ensured. Mr. President, COP30 must deliver clear and tangible indicators backed by means of implementation in our work in the GGA. This is important to advance our collective efforts towards the GGA. While we acknowledge the work of the experts, these indicators must align fully with the provisions of the Paris Agreement and the Convention. Mr. President, on loss and damage, we welcome the launch of the Barbados Implementation Plan by the Loss and Damage Fund. This is indeed significant. The BIM will not support projects if additional resources are not provided. Therefore, we call on the fund's capitalization. The Belem must advance political support for ensuring that significant capitalization happens here to ensure that the fund indeed saves the continent and other parts of the world. Mr. President, COP30 must adopt a decision on just transition pathways within the context of sustainable development and poverty eradication. For Africa, this is not abstract. Our continent hosts vast natural capital resources, from carbon sinks to critical minerals, essential for low carbon emission pathways. These resources must translate into tangible benefits. Therefore, just transition pathways cannot remain a dialogue. It must deliver concrete outcomes that transform lives, expand access to energy through initiatives like Mission 300 and the provision of clean energy solutions for millions of people on the continent. Mr. President, the African Group once again pledges support to you, Mr. President, and reaffirm our commitment to working with all parties to advance climate action and implementation. We have initiated consultations on the hosting of the African COP, and I am pleased to inform you that the African Group has received and endorsed the request of the government of Ethiopia to host COP32. In conclusion, we remain committed to ensure that Belem must deliver decisions that reflect urgent needs of the African continent and other parts of the world to ensure that the challenges we are facing are indeed supported, and we are supported in the context of materialism. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanzania. I now invite Palau to speak on behalf of AOSIS. Palau, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Apologies in the beginning, our mic wasn't working. COP presidency, congratulations on your ascension to the presidency. Palau has the honor to make this statement on behalf of 39 members of the Alliance of Small Island States. We have submitted our full statement to the Secretariat. At the outset, allow me to align our statement with the statement delivered by Iraq on behalf of G77 and China. We extend our sincere appreciation to the government of Brazil for the warm welcome and the here at COP30 in Belem. We recognize that this COP must deliver real progress across all pillars of the Paris Agreement in a way that ensures that 1.5 degrees is alive and no one is left behind. The science is clear that we are dangerously off track to limiting global warming to 1.5. The latest rounds of NDCs fall short of delivering the ambition needed. COP30 must provide a clear follow-up on the global stocktake outcomes, renewed leadership from major emitters, and alignment with the Paris Agreement's legally binding 1.5 degrees Celsius. We assure parties that there is no finger-pointing. Instead, the NDC synthesis report provides the basis for a collective approach. Since the synthesis report summarizes where we are at the global level, this should be done in the spirit of international cooperation and fundamental principle of collectivity by which we consider how close we are to meeting the goals of the Paris Agreement. On the mitigation work program, AOSIS calls for substantive outcomes that incorporates the mitigation elements of GSD outcome, particularly the energy package, highlight concrete solutions from global dialogues and investment-focused events, while remain firm and anchored in 1.5. And it also established a process to review progress by 2026. President SID's climate action is made possible by the support we receive. It is imperative that COP30 delivers the climate finance and outcomes to provide assurance for developing countries, particularly islands, that this process holds legitimacy and relevancy. As we mark the first year of the NCQG implementation, accountability within the UNFCCC is paramount to building trust and confidence. We need to increase transparency in how climate finance is reported, including finance flows to SIDS. We look forward to engaging in discussion on a successor to the Adaptation Finance doubling goal of the Glasgow Climate Pact. President, the UAE Belem work program, we look forward to a successful decision on the indicators under the UAE Belem work program. It gives us the opportunity to operationalize the GGA through a credible, balanced, and workable set of indicators that does not create barriers or additional reporting burdens. We must affirm the voluntary and non-punitive nature of reporting and embed safeguards so that indicators are never used as conditionalities for accessing finance. This COP delivers an outcome that strengthens support for NAP formulation, implementation and monitoring, but also reflects on the adaptation gaps and needs that we face. We look forward to a successful completion of the review of the Warsaw International Mechanism, and we expect an outcome of the review to provide guidance on complementarity. And we acknowledge the importance that the presidency attaches to UAE dialogue, and the AOSIS reiterates that the key platform to take forward the outcomes of the GSD. For AOSIS, the implementation of the GSD encompasses all its outcomes and serves as a mechanism to follow up on each of them. We also reiterate our call for loss and damage to be addressed as a standalone theme in GSD cycle in order for it to receive the dedicated attention it deserves. Science is the foundation of this process. On the periodic review, COP30 will we look forward to a dedicated forum to reflect on the latest science on 1.5 and emphasize the importance of the periodic review to AOSIS. On technology implementation program offers that a valuable opportunity to strengthen implementation, and we look to the linkages between the financial mechanism and the technology mechanism. Mr. President, for AOSIS, adopting a well-resourced and implementable gender action plan aligned with SIDS needs and capacities and lasting no less than 5 years is a key priority. AOSIS comes to Belem with solutions, recommendations for partnerships and determination to secure a future for our islands. We urge all parties to act with the urgency and solidarity this moment demands. For us, this is not just about ambition, it is about taking the actions required to ensure a safe and prosperous future for us all. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, AOSIS. I now invite Malawi to speak on behalf of LDCs. Malawi, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Co-President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, thank you very much to the Co-President for hosting us here in Belem. Malawi is speaking on behalf of the 44 listed developed countries group, and I do associate myself with the statements made by Iraq, the Group of 7 Chair, the African Group, and the AOSIS just before me. Co-President, delegates, I want us to imagine the consequences of climate change that have put innocent lives in jeopardy across the LDCs. Children forced to grow up in harsh environments, mothers and widows walking long distances for water that no longer flows, and for firewood to cook in smoky kitchens. Farmers losing their crops season after season with no time to recover. Floods, droughts, and hunger have stretched our endurance, not just in Africa, but including the Caribbean and the Asia Pacific. Homes destroyed, livelihoods stripped away, economies collapsing. Conference, these are not AI-generated stories. These are the daily realities defining the struggle for survival of 1.6 billion people we represent in the LDCs. People who deserve to live and thrive, to dream and to hope. And as we enjoy Belem's hospitality and meet in these nicely branded and decorated walls, our people are watching, they are listening, and they are waiting. They are demanding answers, speed, progress, and climate justice. The youth, the women, the farmers, and the elderly are asking many questions on why the delays about 1.5 degrees Celsius ambition, tripling of grant-based adaptation finance, about the new debt from climate finance, funding for loss and damage, and finalizing just transition work program. Conference, how much longer must we wait to respond to these important questions? We meet, we speak, we discuss, we promise, we postpone, and then wait again. Excellencies, colleagues, let us remember, climate change needs no visa, respects no borders, has no favorites, and the smoke does not stop at our borders. This devastation is all around us, and collectively, we must work the acceleration we have been talking about for so long to get a different result. And this is the COP to make this difference. Yes, a different COP. Thank you, Azerbaijan, for the leadership, and welcome Brazil. Brazil has promised a different COP. We are also hoping for a balanced outcome. We are committed to working with you and all those willing to support our people, marginalized women and youth. COP30 is an opportunity to reconcile with nature and restore the trust that has been lost, not with speeches, but with action and speed. We must leave Belem with a sense of reassurance that this matriarchal process is working for our people, for our economies, and for Mother Nature. Let COP30 stand for hope, for justice and action, a package that triples grant-based adaptation finance from the 2025 levels, advances 1.5 degrees ambition, and delivers the means of implementation. As I conclude my LDC chairmanship at this COP, Co-President, I urge you to reflect on the original intentions of the journey we are walking today. I thank you.
Thank you, Malawi. I now invite Saudi Arabia to speak on behalf of the Arab group. Saudi Arabia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن المجموعة العربية تضم صوتها للبيان العراقي باسم المجموعة 77 والصين. أصحاب المعالي السادة الرؤساء اللجان الفرعية المحترمين، الزميلات والزملاء، يتحدث وفد بلادي باسم 22 دولة عضوا في جامعة الدول العربية. بداية تود المجموعة العربية أن تعبر عن شكرها للجهود العظيمة التي قامت بها دولة أذربيجان في الرئاسة السابقة، ونبدي دعمنا لجهود الرئاسة البرازيلية خلال مؤتمر الأطراف 30. السادة الرؤساء، تؤكد المجموعة العربية على ضرورة الالتزام بمبادئ الاتفاقية الإطارية بشأن تغير المناخ واتفاق باريس، وأهمية الالتزام بمبادئ العدالة والإنصاف والمسؤولية المشتركة ولكن متباينة الأعباء. كما تؤكد على أن العمل المناخي يجب أن يستهدف الانبعاثات وليست المصادر، وأن يأخذ بالاعتبار جميع الحلول والتقنيات بشكل شمولي وكامل دون تمييز. السادة الرؤساء، بالنسبة إلى التمويل، نعبر عن تحفظ هذه المجموعة على اعتراض أقلية من الدول بشكل لا يتسق مع مبادئ وأحكام الاتفاقية الإطارية واتفاق باريس على مشروع تم التقدم به من سلطنة عمان في الصندوق الأخضر للمناخ، وهو ما يؤكد الحاجة الماسة لتسليط الضوء على التزامات الدول الصناعية في الفقرة الأولى من المادة 9، وأهمية تسهيل استفادة الدول النامية من الصناديق المختصة بالتمويل تحت الاتفاقية الإطارية. وبالنسبة للمادة الثانية البند جيم، لا نرى مناسبة المضي قدما في تمديد الحوار أو إطلاق أي برامج عمل جديدة في هذا الشأن، لا سيما وأن تنفيذ هذا الهدف جار بالفعل على المستوى الوطني وفقا للظروف والأولويات الوطنية المختلفة. كما نلاحظ وجود محاولات لفرض التزامات جديدة سواء في جانب التنفيذ أو الشفافية، بما لا يخدم مصالح الدول النامية. وفيما يتعلق بخارطة الطريق للوصول إلى مبلغ 1.3 تريليون، فإن التقرير الصادر يعكس وجهات نظر الرئاستين ولا يمثل توجهات الدول الأطراف. بالنسبة للتكيف، نود الإشارة إلى ضرورة تفعيل إجراءات التكيف وربطها مع الهدف العالمي للتكيف، مع ضرورة الاستجابة الملائمة للتكيف للأضرار الناتجة عن التغير المناخي في سياق هدف درجة الحرارة المشار إليه في المادة 2 من اتفاقية باريس، مع الأخذ بالاعتبار الظروف الوطنية والتنمية المستدامة وفوائد التخفيف المصاحبة للتكيف والتنوع الاقتصادي. كما نؤكد على أهمية أن تكون مؤشرات برنامج عمل الإمارات بلم مرتكزة على التكيف وألا تتعارض مع أحكام اتفاق باريس. التخفيف، فيما يخص التخفيف، نرى ضرورة الالتزام بما تم الاتفاق عليه بشأن برنامج عمل التخفيف القائم في نص شرم الشيخ، والذي حدد بوضوح المبادئ الأساسية التي يعمل عليها البرنامج، والتي تنص على أن يتم تفعيل برنامج العمل من خلال تبادل الآراء والمعلومات، مع ملاحظة أن نتائج البرنامج ستكون غير توجيهية وغير عقابية وتيسيرية، كما أن تحترم السيادة الوطنية والظروف الوطنية دون فرض أهداف جديدة. كما تحرص المجموعة العربية على تفعيل برنامج تنفيذ التقنية بما يخدم أولويات الدول النامية استنادا إلى مساهماتها الوطنية واحتياجاتها التقنية، ودعم التقنيات الناشئة مثل التقاط الكربون واستخدام وتخزين الهيدروجين النظيف، لما لها من دور في تخفيف الآثار الاجتماعية والاقتصادية وتعزيز منافع التكيف. السادة الرؤساء، فيما يخص مواضيع الجرد العالمي، نود التأكيد على دور الجرد العالمي كآلية تقييم لتحقيق أهداف اتفاقية باريس في كل من التخفيف والتكيف ووسائل التنفيذ، بالإضافة إلى الخسائر والأضرار وتدابير الاستجابة، وذلك بهدف تعزيز التعاون الدولي في إعداد المساهمات الوطنية المحددة بما يتماشى مع مسارات والظروف والتطلعات الوطنية لكل دولة. ولا ينبغي أن يشكل الجرد العالمي مسار آخر لصنع القرارات التي تتعارض مع أعمال الأجندات الأخرى، وأن يجبر الدول على تطبيق إجراءات معينة لا تتطابق مع الظروف الوطنية ولا تتوافق مع الأسس للاتفاقية. وفيما يخص المساهمات الوطنية المحددة وطنيا، كذلك التقرير الذي أعدته سكرتارية اتفاقية الأمم المتحدة الإطارية لتغير المناخ، ترى المجموعة أنهما لا يتطلبان أي تقييم من قبل الأطراف. تشدد المجموعة على أن التركيز يجب أن يكون على تهيئة بيئة دولية تمكينية للتعاون وتوفير وسائل الدعم والتنفيذ اللازم للدول النامية. وتؤكد المجموعة على أن مسارات الانتقال العادل تكون شمولية ومحددة وطنيا في سياق التنمية المستدامة والقضاء على الفقر وضمان الحق في التنمية، والتأكيد على الالتزام بمبادئ العدالة والإنصاف والمسؤولية المشتركة ولكن المتباينة كمبدأ أساسي. كما
Thank you very much. Thank you, Arab states. I now invite Uruguay to speak on behalf of Grupo Sur. Uruguay, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have the honor to take the floor. Sorry, I will change to Spanish. Tengo el honor de tomar la palabra en nombre del Grupo Sur, integrado por Argentina, Brasil, Ecuador, Paraguay y Uruguay. Nuestro grupo se alinea con la intervención del G77 más China. Deseamos comenzar expresando nuestro reconocimiento a la presidencia brasileña y al pueblo de Brasil por acoger esta conferencia en el corazón de la Amazonia. Belem nos recuerda que el cambio climático no es una abstracción, es una realidad que transforma los territorios donde viven millones de personas. Celebrar esta COP en la Amazonía es, ante todo, un llamado político y ético a situar la vida, la justicia y la cooperación en el centro de nuestras decisiones. En un contexto global creciente de fragmentación, Grupo Sur reafirma el multilateralismo como el único marco legítimo para una acción climática cooperativa y equitativa. Las medidas adoptadas para combatir el cambio climático, incluidas las unilaterales, no deberían constituir un medio de discriminación arbitraria o injustificable ni una restricción encubierta al comercio internacional. El Grupo aboga por una cooperación internacional basada en la confianza, el respeto mutuo y la búsqueda de soluciones colectivas. En este marco, destacamos las siguientes prioridades para esta COP30. Primero, adaptación. Aspiramos a que Belem se adopte una decisión sustantiva sobre el Objetivo Mundial de Adaptación, incluyendo la adopción de un conjunto manejable de indicadores globales que reflejen no solo las acciones, sino también los medios de implementación, incluyendo financiamiento, tecnología y fortalecimiento de las capacidades. Esto debe ser acompañado del apoyo necesario para que los países en desarrollo podamos implementar el marco a nivel nacional. Asimismo, esperamos salir de Belem con un compromiso de financiamiento para la adaptación renovado que reemplace el de Glasgow, en el contexto de alcanzar un balance con la mitigación y adicionales los recursos financieros para pérdidas y daños. Presidente, los países del Grupo Sur han realizado grandes esfuerzos para la formulación de sus planes nacionales de adaptación. Por ello, no podemos irnos de esta COP sin una decisión sustantiva sobre NAPS que incluya provisiones claras de financiamiento, tecnología y fortalecimiento de las capacidades para la implementación de los NAPS en los países en desarrollo. Segundo, financiamiento. Tras la adopción del nuevo objetivo cuantificado en Bakú, el desafío de Belem es su implementación efectiva. Reafirmamos la obligación de los países desarrollados, conforme al artículo 9.1 del Acuerdo de París, de proveer recursos nuevos, adicionales, previsibles y concesionales, priorizando la adaptación y las necesidades nacionales de desarrollo sostenible y erradicación de la pobreza. América del Sur es una región profundamente comprometida con la acción climática y con metas ambiciosas de mitigación y adaptación, pero para sostener ese nivel de ambición necesitamos medios de implementación acordes, acceso real a financiamiento, transferencia tecnológica y fortalecimiento de capacidades. Tercero, transición justa. El programa de trabajo sobre transición justa debe tener un alcance integral que incorpore las dimensiones social, laboral, territorial y promoción de la protección de los derechos humanos, incluido el derecho al desarrollo, conforme a los principios, obligaciones y compromisos asumidos por nuestros países y sus respectivas prioridades de desarrollo. Consideramos indispensable que Belem avance de manera sustantiva hacia el arreglo institucional de transición justa. En cuanto a balance global, consideramos fundamental acordar en Belem una decisión sobre los resultados del primer balance global, incluyendo los elementos logísticos y procedimentales que orientarán el segundo ciclo. Quinto, agricultura. Priorizamos la resiliencia, la seguridad alimentaria y la sostenibilidad de los sistemas productivos, evitando enfoques prescriptivos o que desconozcan los saberes locales. En sexto lugar, con relación al marco reforzado de transparencia, quisiera destacar el compromiso de los países con...
Thank you very much. Let me now invite Colombia to speak on behalf of ILAC. But before I invite Colombia, just to remind colleagues, delegates, that you have to press just once as you request for the floor. You press your microphone button just once, not twice, so that we can capture your request here. So now, Colombia, please, you have the floor.
Realizo esta intervención a nombre de la Asociación Independiente de América Latina y el Caribe, AILAC, por lo tanto son 5 minutos, señor presidente. Agradecemos al pueblo y al gobierno de Brasil por la cálida bienvenida en esta ciudad de Belem do Pará. Celebrar una COP hoy, 10 años del Acuerdo de París en la Amazonía, tiene un significado profundo. La Amazonía es el pulmón del planeta, un lugar de extrema biodiversidad y un elemento central de la estabilidad climática global, con más de 400 grupos étnicos, incluyendo pueblos indígenas, pueblos afrodescendientes y comunidades locales que han sido guardianes de la naturaleza durante siglos. Sin embargo, no estamos en el mejor momento frente a la lucha contra el cambio climático. Nuestros compromisos están aún muy lejos de prevenir un colapso climático y además hay una enorme disparidad entre lo dicho y lo alcanzado. Los países que conformamos AILAC compartimos una realidad. Somos naciones que hemos contribuido históricamente en muy baja proporción a las emisiones globales, pero que enfrentamos de manera desproporcionada los impactos del cambio climático. Nuestras circunstancias especiales implican que territorios, economías y comunidades vivan cada vez con mayor frecuencia los efectos de sequías, inundaciones, pérdida de biodiversidad, retroceso de glaciales y afectaciones costeras. Nuestros países han asumido metas y políticas consistentes con el objetivo de 1.5, pero hacerlo requiere que el régimen climático cumpla sus promesas. Los medios de implementación son indispensables para maximizar el potencial de la acción climática. Para AILAC, las nuevas NDCs deben reflejar metas más robustas y deben ser acompañadas de las condiciones habilitantes para la materialización de la ambición. AILAC considera que el diálogo de Emiratos Árabes sobre la implementación de los resultados del balance mundial debe ser un espacio orientado a la acción y la cooperación que permita evaluar el progreso colectivo sin fragmentar los temas ni seleccionar algunos de forma aislada. Para AILAC es fundamental que este proceso cuente con un reporte de síntesis que refleje las discusiones sustantivas y que sea tomado en consideración en una decisión bajo la CMA. AILAC destaca que el programa de trabajo de mitigación debería ser un espacio técnico inclusivo. Sus resultados deben alimentar decisiones políticas concretas. AILAC considera que esta COP debe marcar un hito en el liderazgo de los países desarrollados para la entrega efectiva de la nueva meta cuantificada de financiamiento. Lograr esta meta implica que los países desarrollados ejerzan el rol que les corresponde, la provisión del financiamiento en virtud del artículo 9.1 del Acuerdo de París. AILAC enfatiza que conforme a la opinión consultiva.
Thank you very much, Colombia, on behalf of the ILAC. Now, I do not see any group requesting the floor, so I want to hand over to the substitute chair to invite statements from individual parties, followed by observer organizations. Substitute chair, please take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now invite individual parties to make statements which should be limited to 3 minutes. I see that Tajikistan has asked for the floor. Tajikistan, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, Excellencies, actually you called our country, it's Kyrgyzstan, not Tajikistan. So,
Sorry.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the delegation of Kyrgyzstan comes to Belem with determination and hope. Recently, Kyrgyzstan submitted its updated NDC 3 with own contribution to reduce emissions and to adapt to climate change, and have also completed first BTR. For a small mountainous developing nation, these are not declarations of intent, but concrete actions taken under the real constraints and driven by profound sense of responsibility to our people and our planet. Therefore, we are glad to announce that on Sunday, during informal consultations on the adaptation on adoption of the COP30 agenda, we agreed to have presidency consultations on mountains. We invite all stakeholders to participate in these meaningful consultations. For us, this is a pivotal moment when the world can finally recognize what mountains nations which are most vulnerable to climate change have long understood. That the degradation of mountain ecosystems, the melting of glaciers, the drying of rivers, the loss of forests and pastures, and the growing threats of landslides and water scarcity endanger not only for mountain communities, but hundreds of millions of people
Excuse me, I see a point of order.
In addressing such challenges, Kyrgyzstan initiated the Declaration on Climate Change.
Point of order by Colombia. Colombia, you have the floor.
Sí, señor presidente, muchas gracias por darme la palabra. Nosotros estamos interviniendo a nombre de AILAC, es decir, de un grupo de negociación. Me han dado solo 3 minutos y me han cortado el micrófono a los 3 minutos. Nosotros también queremos tener el misma oportunidad de hablar que los demás grupos de negociación. No nos parece ajustado con las reglas y con la transparencia de este proceso que nos corten el micrófono faltando 2 minutos para que podamos terminar de establecer nuestras prioridades en esta plenaria. Entonces agradezco, señor presidente, que los 2 minutos que no me fueron otorgados me sean otorgados. Gracias. Y sí, cerca le pego.
I now go back to the president who was chairing that.
Thank you, Colombia. Let me confirm that you are given 5 minutes, not 3 minutes. You are given 5 minutes, and we counted 5 minutes, not 3 minutes.
We can now continue with the speaker that was on the floor.
Yeah, Colombia, you have the floor, please. You have the floor. You have the floor.
Señor presidente, no me han prendido el micrófono. En este momento me lo prendieron. Aquí dice que tengo 2 minutos para hablar. Pero cuando estaba haciendo la intervención como grupo regional de AILAC, en la pantalla decía 5 minutos, en el micrófono decía 3 y me fue cortada la palabra a los 3 minutos. Agradezco a la Secretaría que revise el tiempo porque no fueron 5 minutos, fueron 3. Necesitamos que el proceso sea justo, sea equitativo. No empecemos con estas dificultades que son menores y que terminan enredando nuestros procesos. Entonces, agradezco que la Secretaría revise. En la pantalla decía 5 minutos, en el micrófono decía 3. Los 2 minutos me sean otorgados para terminar la intervención de AILAC. Aprovecho para indicarles que la intervención de AILAC en su integralidad está en la plataforma, por si no se logra leer toda. Pero sí agradezco que sea equitativo y que se nos otorguen los 2 minutos como a los demás grupos regionales. Gracias, señor presidente.
Colombia, I'll take the prerogative as the president to give you the additional 2 minutes. Thank you.
No son adicionales, pero gracias, señor presidente. AILAC toma nota con aprecio de la ruta Bakú-Belem presentada por la presidencia y confía en que este marco oriente los esfuerzos colectivos hacia la definición y puesta en marcha de una meta de financiamiento verdaderamente transformadora. Esperamos que este proceso sirva para acelerar la implementación de la NCQG. Los compromisos financieros deben priorizar la adaptación, las pérdidas y daños y la construcción de resiliencia. Los países desarrollados deben garantizar un flujo de recursos que no incremente el endeudamiento ni condicione la acción climática. La confianza en este proceso depende de que los compromisos se traduzcan en desembolsos reales, oportunos y accesibles. Asimismo, AILAC subraya la importancia de fortalecer los mecanismos de transparencia y rendición de cuentas en el financiamiento climático. La adaptación debe ocupar un lugar central en los resultados de Belem. El programa de trabajo sobre transición justa debe traducirse en mecanismos concretos de cooperación, intercambio de conocimiento y fortalecimiento de capacidades en línea con los artículos 10 y 11 del Acuerdo de París. Asimismo, la transferencia de tecnología debe ser efectiva y responder a las prioridades nacionales expresadas en las NDCs. El Plan de Acción de Género representa una oportunidad crucial para fortalecer la participación plena y significativa de las mujeres en todos los niveles de la respuesta climática. Reafirmamos nuestro compromiso para trabajar constructivamente con todas las partes, con un espíritu de cooperación y de justicia. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Colombia. We now have, now let me take back the floor now to the Substa Chair to continue.
Can I start now? Okay.
Hold on. We are trying to clarify something here.
Thank you, colleagues, delegates, for your understanding. Substa Chair, you have to bear with me. I still have one group which needs to make a statement, and this is Honduras on behalf of the Coalition of Rainforest Nations. I think this was missed out. So let me give the floor to Honduras, please. 5 minutes. Honduras, you have the floor. Okay, as they fix I think they have a technical problem, so Substa Chair, you can continue with parties, then we come back to Honduras once they have fixed the problem. Substa Chair, please, you can continue.
Thank you, President. We'll now continue with individual parties. I'll give the floor to Kyrgyzstan, and you start over or again. You have 3 minutes. You have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the delegation of Kyrgyzstan comes to Belem with determination and hope. Recently, Kyrgyzstan submitted its updated NDC-3 with own contribution to reduce emissions and to adapt to climate change, and have also completed first BTR. For a small mountainous developing nation, these are not declarations of intent, but concrete actions taken under real constraints and driven by a profound sense of responsibility to our people and our planet. Therefore, we are glad to announce that on Sunday, during informal consultation on the adoption of the COP30 agenda, we agreed to have presidency consultations on mountains. We invite all stakeholders to participate in these meaningful consultations. For us, this is a pivotal moment when the world can finally recognize what mountain nations, which are most vulnerable to climate change, have long understood, that the degradation of mountain ecosystems, the melting of glaciers, the driving of rivers, the loss of forests and pastures, and the growing threats of landslides and water scarcity endanger not only to mountain communities, but hundreds of millions of people worldwide. In addressing such challenges, Kyrgyzstan initiated the Declaration on Climate Change, Mountains and Glaciers, which was endorsed by 21 countries at COP29. Today, at COP30, we warmly invite more nations to join to this declaration, reaffirming that the protection of mountains is a shared global cause. In this spirit, Kyrgyzstan calls for mountain ecosystem and vulnerability of mountain communities to be formally reflected in the COP30 agenda and in UNFCCC decisions which dedicated support for mountain adaptation and resilience. The Baku-Belem roadmap finally recognized mountains. Now we must give the recognition a home and a budget to provide access of mountain communities to climate financing. Kyrgyzstan offers to host a global mountain resilience center. The center will serve all mountain developing countries, preparing projects for the Adaptation, Loss and Damage Fund, and building carbon market readiness. In the fate of the mountain and the Amazon are inseparably linked. From the glaciers to the seas, one living system connects to all us. When snow the mountains disappears, rivers dry, forests burn, and oceans rise. Protecting one.
Thank you for your statement. I see that Pakistan has asked for the floor. Pakistan, you have the floor.
It's not what, So, thank you, Chair, President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. At the outset, allow me to thank the government and the people of Brazil for their gracious hospitality and for hosting this defining COP in the heart of Amazon, a living reminder of our planet, beauty, bounty, and fragility. Mr. President, as we gather in Belem, we mark 10 years since the adoption of the Paris Agreement, a moment that transformed hope into a global pact of shared responsibility. 10 years on, the question before us is not one of commitment but of delivery. The Paris Agreement promised a balance between mitigation, adaptation, and means of implementation. Yet for many developing countries, including Pakistan, that balance remains unrealized. The first global stocktake has confirmed what science and experience already tells us. We need to raise the implementation ambition by ensuring availability of additional grant-based finance. Pakistan believes that the follow-up to the global stocktake must focus on equitable implementation, measurable resilience, and follow paragraph 87 of the UAE decision. As a global community, we need a moment to reflect today on the outcomes of Paris Agreement that we have achieved. We have been able to stop climate change or to mitigate its disastrous impacts. The answer is evident. We have faced catastrophic floods this year, impacting livelihoods and the hard-earned progress of our people. These floods were a reminder of the 2022 super floods that submerged a third of the country. Yet amid adversity, Pakistan has moved from assessment to action. We launched our National Adaptation Plan, Advanced Provincial Resilience Framework. We are integrating adaptation and mitigation within our climate investment frameworks, which link national planning with green finance mechanism and trying to increase resilience. While we are paying the price for a crisis we did not create, Pakistan is also proving itself to be a leader in climate change. Chair, we would like to highlight that finance is not an act of generosity but a fulcrum of implementation. Article 9.1 of the Paris Agreement is a legal obligation of developed countries. We call for a dedicated space to review it. The fund for responding to loss and damage was a victory in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh, but we still have promises not fulfilled. Adaptation is not a supplementary theme. It is lifetime and it must become equal to mitigation. Technology is the bridge between ambition and action, and the adequate emphasis needs to be placed on it. Just transition is not a slogan. We need to support the establishment of a dedicated Just Transition Technical Assistance Network to facilitate capacity building and policy coherence. Pakistan remains positively engaged in the negotiations to move the world.
Thank you for your statement. I see that Brazil has asked for the floor. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dear colleagues, Brazil is honored by the massive presence of delegations today. We welcome you all to Belem and would like to infuse in each and every one of you the spirit of companionship, of trust and of cooperation, but also one of urgency. For Brazil, it is urgent to uphold multilateralism, to prevent unilateralism from becoming the trend, and to generate momentum for accelerated climate action across all regions. For Brazil, adaptation is a key outcome. The time has come for adaptation to occupy the center of political attention. Many delegations have been saying that this is the adaptation COP. To make that a reality, we need a strong decision on the global goal on adaptation. These indicators will serve as a compass, guiding global progress and aligning ambition with real needs on the ground. We also expect tangible results on the Baku Adaptation Roadmap, which should focus on adaptation action and support. Brazil views COP30 as a decisive opportunity to advance the Just Transition Work Programme. This moment calls for moving beyond conceptual debates toward delivering tangible outcomes that enable countries to implement just transition pathways, ensuring that no one is left behind, particularly women, indigenous peoples, local communities, people of African descent, migrants, children, persons with disabilities, and all those in vulnerable situations. On the UAE dialogue, Brazil supports the adoption of modalities enabling a balanced and meaningful exchange to promote action informed by the outcomes of the first global stocktake. The dialogue should support GST implementation while avoiding duplicating on or encroaching upon existing process under the UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement. Colleagues, the circumstances show us the clear need for strengthening the regime. It must involve restoring our mutual trust and working together in good faith. It must involve real ambition and speedy action on the ground, both on adaptation and mitigation, and pave the way to make finance, technology and capacity building a reality. Thank you very much.
I thank Brazil. I now give the microphone back to the presidency to invite one of the groups that had not spoken. Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Substa. Dear delegates, let me now invite Honduras to speak for the Coalition of Rainforests. Honduras will speak from the Mozambique microphone. Honduras, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We wonder how could you have forgot the rainforest when we are in the middle of the Amazon in the party groups. But, Mr. President, Excellencies and distinguished delegates, Honduras has the honor to speak on behalf of the Coalition for Rainforest Nation. Let me begin by aligning our remarks with that made by the distinguished delegation of Iraq on behalf of the Group of 77 in China. Mr. President, we could not be more excited than be at the heart of the Amazon. We stress the forests are vital carbon sinks. They absorb and store vast amounts of CO2, making them essentials to achieving the Paris Agreement goal of balancing emissions and removals by the second half of this century. Preserving forest sink safeguards the Paris Agreement integrity. Without stable and resilient forest carbon sinks, the global goal of limiting temperature rise to 1.5 becomes untenable. Mr. President, our indigenous and forest-dependent community have been safeguarding and managing our forests for millennia. We must not allow additionalities definition that are appropriate for major emitters to unjustly annex forest removal in developing countries. Mr. President, 10 years ago, we collectively agreed that forests are fully recognized in the new climate regime under Article 5 of the Paris Agreement. We urge all parties to conserve and enhance sinks and reservoirs of greenhouse gases, including forests, and encourage result-based payment for reducing deforestation and enhancing carbon stocks. In Dubai, the GST1 outcome in paragraph 34 recognized the role of forests, and COP30 must focus on implementation of decisions agreeing that urgent scaling of support is needed to reverse global deforestation and degradation by 2030, in accordance with the Article 5 of the Paris Agreement. Developed countries must lead with finance and support and result-based forest finance in a Paris-aligned pathway. We must ensure that forests proportionately included in our annual climate finance target of 300 billion and 1.3 trillion. Mr. President, we believe that enhanced transparency framework must be strong, accurate, and meet the highest environmental integrity standard required by the Paris Agreement. Thus, ETF reviewers should not be reinterpreting what parties have agreed to unilaterally impose their personal policy musing on parties. Without confidence in the ETF process, the entire Paris Agreement begins to rapidly unwind. Finally, Mr. President, we stress the importance of high-integrity carbon markets for forests. National scale UNFCCC RED Plus eliminates the risk of displacement of emissions and reduces permanence risks. The same is true for all other sectors. Article 5.2 and 6.2 verified UNFCCC RED Plus ITMO from rainforest country can provide the highest integrity, and they are required if we are to meet our global climate goals. This is a unique opportunity for corporate clients with net zero strategies to source high-quality Paris Agreement verified sovereign-level ITMOs, though an international recognized system with standardized rules and robust accounting mechanism. In closing, we would like to state that once again our coalition is ready and determined to continue our journey together and stay by your side. We must implement the Paris Agreement to reach the 1.5 goal. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Honduras. Speaking on behalf of the Coalition of Rainforest. Now I'll give back the floor to the SABSA chair to continue with the national statements.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I give the floor to the next speaker, I want to apologize about the technical issues we're having on the system. We're trying to sort them out. You'll bear with us. I see that Nepal has asked for the floor. Nepal, you have the floor.
Chair, Co-Presidency, SBCS, Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates, Nepal has the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of Bangladesh, Bhutan and Nepal. We would like to align ourselves with the statement delivered by G77 and China. we extend our sincere gratitude to Ambassador Andrew Correa Dulago and COP30 presidency team for warm hospitality extended to us and leadership here in the Belem. Our three countries are united by the shared geography, deep interconnected climate vulnerability, and a strong commitment to sustainable development. Despite contributing least to the global emissions, we continue to demonstrate high climate ambitions. At the same time, we are among those most affected by the climate change with limited capacity to respond. We three countries are constantly moving forward, as Bhutan has already graduated from the LDC status, while Bangladesh and Nepal are in the process of graduation. Graduation reflects development progress, but does not reduce our climate vulnerability nor the scale of support required to safeguard development gains. The climate impacts are real and worsening. In Bhutan and Nepal, rapid glacier melt in high mountains regions increases the risk of glacier lake outbursts, floods, landslides, and threatening millions downstream. In Bangladesh, sea level rise, coastal erosion, and saltwater intrusion endanger lives, livelihoods, and ecosystems. These are interlinked climate impacts. Glacier melting upstream contribute to raising sea downstream, turning slow onset impact into severe climate extremes with cascading consequences. Mr. President, science is clear. Keeping 1.5 degree within reach is a matter of our survival. COP30 must close the ambition gap in NDC in line with our outcome of first global stocktake and accelerate implementation. Revisiting the enhancing 2035 NDC to ensure alignment with the 1.5 degrees centigrade pathway is essential. On climate finance, COP30 must implement the new collective qualified goal with a clear pathway to mobilize USD 300 billion annually with the broader USD 1.3 trillion roadmap agreed in Baku. We reiterate the call to triple grant-based adaptation finance to at least USD 120 billion per year by 2030 and ensure simplified, scaled-off access to finance to implement NDCs and NAPs. Adaptation is investment in survival and foundation for sustainable development. Belem must deliver a comprehensive set of indicators under the global goal on adaptation. We welcome the BIM and FRLD and emphasize that support must be predictable, rapid, and directly accessible. We also
I thank you for your statement. I see that Bhutan has asked for the floor. Bhutan, you have the floor.
Chair, COP Presidency, SB Chairs, Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates. Bhutan congratulates the COP Presidency on assumption of office to guide parties. Also, for the delegation of Bhutan, it's an honor and privilege to see Brazil's ambassador to Bhutan assume this important post. Bhutan aligns itself with the statement made by G77 and China and supports the joint statement made by Nepal on behalf of Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal. The COP30 at the heart of the Amazon sends a powerful reminder of the urgency and ambition required for both mitigation and adaptation. Building on the outcomes of the first global stocktake, COP30 is a critical moment. It will be the first COP where countries are expected to respond to identified gaps by advancing more ambitious NDCs aligned with the 1.5-degree pathway. We must therefore deliver a collective, robust response that addresses the implementation gaps in NDCs. For a climate-vulnerable, landlocked, mountainous developing country such as Bhutan, we echo the sentiments shared earlier by Kyrgyzstan. 1.5 degrees Celsius is not a negotiating preference. It is a matter of survival for us. We cannot overemphasize the importance of enhanced ambition coupled with adequate, additional, and grant-based financing to support implementation in this critical decade. Bhutan underscores the importance of operationalizing the new collective quantified goal with a target of $300 billion. Within this, we highlight the urgent need to triple grant-based adaptation finance, ensuring accessibility and predictability for the most vulnerable. On loss and damage, the FRLD must respond to the needs of developing countries, in particular to those most vulnerable, in a timely and effective manner. Although Bhutan graduated from LDC status in December of 2023, we remain highly vulnerable. On GTA indicators, we call for a robust set of indicators supported by clear means of implementation and monitoring. Capacity building for data collection will be essential. The absence of data should not be a barrier to the inclusion of new indicators, especially those aligned with the adaptation targets agreed at COP28. Bhutan stands ready to work collectively with everyone towards a successful COP30 outcome. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you for your statement. I see that Japan has asked for the floor. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry for this. Let me express our profound gratitude to the Presidency, the Secretariat, and all stakeholders for their efforts in organizing this COP30 in this beautiful city of Belem. Japan remains strongly committed to addressing climate change based on multilateralism. From Japan's point of view, one of the most critical elements in addressing climate change is mitigation. Under the Paris Agreement, achieving the 1.5 Celsius goal requires all countries, including major emitting economies, to pursue decarbonization. The ambition ratchet-up cycle of the Paris Agreement, consisting of GST, NDC, and BTR, is the very foundation of the agreement. COP30 is a critical turning point that will determine whether we can keep this cycle moving forward and maintain the Paris Agreement system on track for the 1.5 Celsius goal. In February this year, Japan submitted its new NDC. The new reduction target aims for 60% reduction by fiscal year 2035 and 73% reduction by fiscal year 2040 compared to fiscal year 2013 levels. These are ambitious targets achieved consistent with the Paris Agreement's 1.5 Celsius goal. In fact, Japan has already achieved approximately 27% reduction by fiscal year 2023, demonstrating steady progress. We urge parties that have not yet submitted the NDCs to submit NDCs with the highest possible ambition as soon as possible. During this COP30, we should review the NDC synthesis report to assess our current position relative to the 1.5 Celsius goal and discuss pathways to achieve it. It is also crucial to discuss the implementation state of play of NDCs globally. Based on the BTR synthesis report, building on this, we wish to deliver a strong political message on mitigation. Enhancing efforts in adaptation sector is also critical. Japan has rich and extensive expertise in disaster prevention, including weather-related disasters, which we believe can be valuable and utilized by other countries. We wish to contribute in discussion in the adaptation sector and to share such expertise. Regarding climate finance, Japan remains prepared to provide funding as a developed country. However, as stated in the NCQZ decision, meeting developing countries' climate finance needs, whether for mitigation or adaptation, requires not only public funding from developed countries, but also support from capable non-developed countries and the mobilization of private finance. Thank you.
I thank you for your statement. I see that Ethiopia has asked for the floor. Ethiopia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to congratulate you on your election as the President of COP. Ethiopia has full confidence in your ability and wisdom to lead us effectively. We would also like to align our statement with the statements delivered by G77 in China, the African Group, and LDCs. We do believe that the COP30 is an important moment to accelerate implementation. Mr. President, my delegation would like to express its profound gratitude and appreciation to the African Group for endorsing Ethiopia's bid to host COP32 in Addis Ababa. We are deeply grateful for the trust and confidence bestowed on Ethiopian people and government. We would like to reiterate our commitment to hosting the African COP in 2027. We look forward to welcoming all of you to Addis Ababa for the COP32. While reiterating our thanks to the African Group of negotiators under the able leadership of Tanzania for the support in endorsing our bid for hosting COP32, we take this opportunity to humbly request all other groups to join in supporting Ethiopia's bid to host COP32 in Addis Ababa, the diplomatic capital of Africa. The Ethiopian government is committed and ready to welcome you all we are making initial preparations both on the technical and logistics fronts, drawing on our experience of hosting international forums, ensuring we leave no one behind and every voice will be fully represented through an inclusive process. And we would rely on parties towards successfully delivering an outcome that places our world on a better track on climate action. COP32 will play a major role in guiding climate action in this critical decade. In addition, we welcome all of you to contribute for the success of COP30 that we believe will lead for a successful COP32. I thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ethiopia. I now see that Burkina Faso has asked for the floor. Burkina Faso, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président de la COP. Distingués délégués, le Burkina Faso félicite la République d'Azerbaïdjan pour sa présidence de la COP29 qui a tracé le chemin de l'espoir, de la vérité et de l'action vers Belem. Le Burkina Faso félicite également et s'engage à accompagner le Brésil pour son mandat à la présidence de la COP30 qui se tient au cœur de l'Amazonie. Merci au peuple hospitalier du Brésil pour toutes les commodités accordées à notre délégation. Monsieur le Président, le Burkina Faso est parfaitement en accord avec les déclarations faites par les présidents du G77 et la Chine, du groupe Afrique et des pays les moins avancés. Le Burkina Faso a beaucoup d'attentes à cette 30e COP qui doit être une conférence de mise en œuvre des actions climatiques et non une conférence de discours et de belles paroles. Le Burkina Faso espère voir les résultats concrets en matière d'adaptation qui est sa préoccupation prioritaire. Des indicateurs de l'objectif global de l'adaptation clairement identifiés et définis et un soutien tangible pour la mise en œuvre des plans nationaux d'adaptation. Tout ceci ne peut se réaliser sans des circonstances spécifiques pour l'Afrique et les PMA afin de faciliter l'accès aux moyens de mise en œuvre que sont le renforcement des capacités, le développement et le transfert de technologies et bien entendu le financement climatique suffisant et accessible. Le Fonds d'adaptation, le Fonds vert pour le climat, le Fonds pour l'environnement mondial, tels que définis jusque-là, peinent à relever les défis de la mise en œuvre des actions climatiques. C'est pourquoi, convaincus que nos communautés subissent de lourdes pertes, tant en vie qu'en matériel, chaque année, nous espérons que cette conférence des parties permettra de passer à la mise en œuvre du Fonds pour les pertes et préjudices avec des actions palpables et concrètes sur le terrain. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
I thank you for your statement. I see Kenya has asked for the floor. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the Republic of Kenya congratulates you on assuming the vital role. We join others in commending you and the people of Brazil for your warm hospitality. We remain available to support you and the work of these all parties towards successful COP30 here in Belem. The Republic of Kenya associates itself with the statements made by the Group of 77 and China and the African Group. Mr. President, COP30 convenes at a critical juncture when multilateralism faces unprecedented threats. This conference must demonstrate our collective commitment to drive enhanced climate action. The Paris rulebook is complete. What remains outstanding are the commitments towards operationalizing the objectives of the Convention and the Paris Agreement through enhanced implementation. Mr. President, means of implementation are the key enablers of enhanced action and ambition. It is therefore critical that we build on the Baku outcome, particularly the new collective quantified goal of 1.3 trillion annually. We invite you and the COP29 presidency to present the NCQG report to a ministerial plenary for substantive engagement with its content. This should be followed by a ministerial prayer to conduct consultations with a view to calling countries and institutions identified in part 3 of the report to action on the 15 short-term priority measures. Mr. President, following the second African Climate Summit held in Ethiopia, African leaders made an unequivocal call for reflection on the Glasgow commitment to double adaptation finance by 2025. The summit further called for tripling adaptation finance beyond 2025. In your informal consultation process, it is critical to create space for mutual accountability and commitment to advance adaptation finance towards a needs-based regime that reflects Africa's adaptation costs estimated at 50 billion annually. We welcome the work of the experts who developed the global goal on adaptation indicators, and we look forward to their consideration during this session. However, we remain concerned that means of implementation indicators are presented as options, while some indicators that contradict the principles of the Convention and the Paris Agreement are reflected as fixed. Mr. President, we look forward to your informal consultations on Article 9.1, unilateral measures, the response to NDC synthesis report and the biannual transparency report. We joined consensus to begin with these 4 issues, trusting this will not be an exclusive list, but rather a platform for considering other important yet orphaned issues. We will engage constructively and look forward to a decision covering NCPG operationalization and adaptation finance scaling as indicated above.
I thank you for your statement. I see that Iraq has asked for the floor. Iraq, you have the floor.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. السيد الرئيس، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكرام، يشرفني أن أتحدث باسم جمهورية العراق في هذا المؤتمر، ونتقدم بجزيل الشكر والتقدير للبرازيل لتنظيم هذا المؤتمر المهم الذي يأتي في مرحلة مفصلية تتطلب منا جميعا تعزيز العمل المشترك لتنفيذ اتفاق باريس وتحقيق أهدافها بطريقة عادلة ومتوازنة. لا يزال العراق شأنه وشأن العديد من الدول النامية يواجه تحديات متزايدة نتيجة آثار التغيرات المناخية التي تمتد إلى موارده المائية والأمن الغذائي والصحة والبنية التحتية والتراث ومختلف مفاصل الحياة. ومع ذلك فإن العراق ملتزم بالمضي في مسار التحول نحو الاقتصاد المستدام ومنخفض الانبعاثات، وبما ينسجم مع ظروفنا الوطنية وقدراتنا المتاحة. السيد الرئيس، يعتمد نجاح العمل المناخي على توفير الدعم المالي والفني والتقني للدول النامية، ومن هذا المنبر يود العراق التأكيد على ما يلي: ضرورة الالتزام بمادة اتفاقية إطارية، خصوصا المسؤولية المشتركة ولكن المتباينة والإنصاف واحترام الظروف الوطنية، ونؤكد على أن قضايا التغير المناخي يجب أن تناقش تحت مظلة الاتفاقية الإطارية حصرا مع رفض أي إجراءات أحادية الجانب تتخذها البلدان خارج مبادئ الاتفاقية. أهمية تمويل التكيف وزيادة حصته بشكل كبير وضمان سهولة الوصول إليه ودعمه للدول الأكثر هشاشة، فالتكيف ليس خيارا بل ضرورة وجودية بالنسبة لبلداننا. الحاجة الملحة لتنفيذ الالتزامات السابقة بما في ذلك الوفاء بهدف التمويل السنوي البالغ 100 مليار دولار ووضع مسار واضح وطموح لتمويل ما بعد 2025. تعزيز التكنولوجيا وبناء القدرات وضمان عدم فرض أي عوائق تجارية أو شروط تمس حقوق الدول النامية في الحصول على التقنيات اللازمة لتنفيذ التزاماتها. دعم آليات الخسائر والأضرار كاستجابة عادلة للتأثيرات المتزايدة لتغير المناخ، وضمان تشغيل الصندوق الخسائر والأضرار وتيسير الوصول إليه بشكل فعال ومنصف. العمل على تحقيق العدالة المناخية والانتقال العادل بالطاقة ونقل التكنولوجيا. السيد الرئيس، لقد صادق العراق مؤخرا على وثيقة الNDC بعد عملية تشاركية واسعة، ويمثل ذلك خطوة مهمة نحو تنفيذ التزاماتنا، لكنه يتطلب تمويل حقيقي يمكننا من خلاله ترجمة هذه الالتزامات إلى واقع. كذلك قدم العراق تقرير الشفافية الBTR كونها أداة رئيسية لإظهار التقدم المحرز في قضايا مهمة في تغير المناخ وتعزيز الثقة والمصداقية وتسهيل اتخاذ القرارات والخطط المستقبليه. ويدعو العراق أن تكون مخرجات COP30 عملية ومركزة إلى التنفيذ، وأن تراعي أولويات الدول النامية وتضمن التكامل بين التخفيف والتكيف بما يمنح شعوبنا القدرة على تحقيق التنمية المستدامة دون تأثير طموحاتها المناخية. أخيرا، نؤكد أن مواجهة التغير المناخي ليس مسؤولية بيئية فحسب، بل مسؤولية إنسانية وأخلاقية مشتركة، والعراق يقف اليوم معكم بروح التعاون والشراكة، أملا أن تكون هذه القمة نحو نقطة تحول نحو مستقبل أكثر أمان.
I thank you for your statements. I see that Switzerland has asked for the floor. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. At the outset, we align with the statement delivered by EIG and use this opportunity to inform our national capacity on new involvements on our financial contribution for climate actions. Mr. Chair, Switzerland would like to reiterate its commitment to the NCQG and to climate finance. Switzerland has and will continue to fulfill its financial obligation in accordance with Article 9 under the Paris Agreement. In 2024, Switzerland contributed approximately 771 million Swiss francs, which is the equivalent of $867 million for climate action in developing countries through public and mobilized private finance. Since adoption of the Paris Agreement, Switzerland provided 3.383 billion Swiss francs, approximately $4.3 billion. With this, we would like to underscore that we are committed to be amongst the countries taking the lead in reaching the goal of at least $300 billion per year and, as part of the global effort, work to scale up financing for developing countries for climate action to at least 1.2 trillion by 2035. We're looking forward to others joining us in this effort. Today, we would like to highlight the following new additional contributions. First, we will continue to provide significant amounts of our climate finance through multiple channels, like the World Bank. Switzerland is contributing 600 million Swiss francs to the 21st replenishment of the International Development Association of the World Bank, which has a target of climate financing of 45%. On adaptation, Switzerland pledges 17 million Swiss francs in total, including 15 million to the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery. On loss and damage, Switzerland will make a new and additional contribution of 1 million Swiss francs to the Santiago network for the next years. This shows that we believe and are confident in the network's growing capacity to provide timely and demand-driven support. On mitigation, we will contribute 12 million Swiss francs. On forest, is pledging totally 15 million Swiss francs, including 5 million for the Amazon Fund. We stand to work together for ambitious climate action, and we look forward to others to joining us in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. I see Philippines has asked for the floor. Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, colleagues, in the interest of time, I will deliver an abridged statement, the full version of which will be submitted in writing. While much shorter, my countrymen and I hope the statement captures in full the dire state of affairs we are in and the urgent need to collectively do better and do things, finally, of consequence. A decade after the Paris Agreement, we meet at a defining moment. The world is not on track to keep 1.5 alive, a red line for humanity that we are dangerously close to crossing. For the vulnerable, this is not about numbers. It is about futures lost and lives disrupted. The Philippines knows this reality. In just 1 week, 2 severe tropical cyclones struck, killing hundreds, destroying homes, and crippling livelihoods. These are not isolated events. They mirror a global pattern of destruction and loss. Clearly, the suffering must stop. The path to 1.5 remains open, but only through a bold, credible, and united response. COP30 must be the delivery COP, where ambition is matched by implementation and pledges become progress. The Philippines' call is clear. Deliver transformative finance. Adopt a new collective quantified goal that mobilizes at least 1.3 trillion annually by 2035 as grants and concessional finance, not debt. Operationalize the Loss and Damage Fund and the Santiago network swiftly and at scale. Advance adaptation through nature-based solutions and science-based indicators under the UAE framework for global climate resilience. Implement Article 6 transparently and equitably with parties in the lead. Prioritize a just transition that empowers women and girls, workers, children, youth, older persons, indigenous peoples, and local communities, as well as protects and sustains livelihoods and enterprises. Finally, transparency frameworks that not only recognize progress, but also identify and address challenges we resolve. Support the new Gender Action Plan to guide an equitable shift from fossil fuels. The Philippines remains firm in its nationally driven climate action, anchored on fairness, equity, and common but differentiated responsibilities. We believe effective multilateralism is not merely a process, but a value choice, our only path to address this essential crisis that knows no borders. As a party to the UNFCCC and the ASEAN Chair for 2026, the Philippines stands ready to work with all nations, guided by solidarity, by science, and by shared resilience. In our work, let's be reminded delay is not diplomacy, inaction is not neutrality. Let COP30 be remembered not for words on paper, but for results that finally serve our peoples and our planet. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. I see that Iran has asked for the floor. Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, Islamic Republic of Iran expresses its sincere appreciation to the government and people of Brazil for hosting COP30 and the UNFCCC Secretariat for organizing this important meeting. Iran aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of the Group of 77 and China, as well as the like-minded developing countries LMDC Group and the Arab Group. This conference convenes at a time when climate impacts are accelerating and placing unprecedented pressure on vulnerable regions. For Iran, located in one of the world's most climate-sensitive and arid regions, the challenges of prolonged drought, desertification, water scarcity, dust storms, and extreme temperatures pose significant threats to our people, ecosystems, and sustainable development. Addressing adaptation needs and ensuring adequate, predictable, and accessible climate finance for developing countries remains one of our highest priorities. However, progress in these areas is severely hindered by unilateral coercive measures. These measures obstruct access to climate finance, technology transfer, and international cooperation, elements essential for implementing effective climate actions. Such restrictions run counter to foundational principle of equity and common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities, CBDR-RC. In this context, Iran appreciates the COP30 presidency consultation with parties on the proposed new agendas, and we emphasize the importance of fully and urgently recognizing and addressing the concerns of countries affected by UCMs and implementing the obligations of developing countries to provide financial support to address the developing country parties' needs and propose agendas in this regard. Ensuring that the agenda reflects these challenges is vital for enabling all parties to engage meaningfully and equitably in global climate efforts. Climate action must not be accompanied by politically motivated restrictions outside the UNFCCC mandate. The Islamic Republic of Iran reaffirms its readiness to work constructively with all parties toward a balanced, inclusive, and successful outcome at COP30. We stand prepared to cooperate across all pillars of climate actions, adaptation, mitigation, technology transfer, and capacity building within a fair and multilateral framework that strengthens trust and supports developing countries. Thank you.
I thank you for your statement. I see that the state of Palestine has asked for the floor. Palestine, you have the floor.
Thank you. شكرا سيد الرئيس. في البداية أود أن أشكر حكومة وشعب البرازيل على حسن الضيافة والاستقبال. واسمحوا لي أن أتوافق مع كلمة المجموعة العربية التي ألقتها مجموعة 77 والصين التي ألقتها جمهورية العراق الشقيق، والمجموعة العربية التي ألقتها المملكة العربية السعودية. سيد الرئيس، إن دولة فلسطين تعاني من آثار بيئية جمة وآثار تغير المناخ، بالإضافة إلى معاناة من حرب الإبادة. إن دولة فلسطين تؤكد حقها في الوصول إلى التمويل المناخي دون أي معيقات وخاصة السياسية منها، وتؤكد على أن هناك آثار سلبية للحرب والنزاعات على تغير المناخ وتفاقم التحديات، حيث ما شهدناه في غزة خلال الحرب وما نتج عنها كميات هائلة جدا من الانبعاثات تعادل ما أنتج من انبعاثات عشرات الدول. وهذه الانبعاثات لا تؤثر على فلسطين فحسب، وإنما تؤثر على العالم بأسره. من جهة أخرى، فإن دولة فلسطين تؤكد على أهمية زيادة التمويل وإعطاء الأولوية للتكيف مع آثار تغير المناخ، كونها دولة نامية، علما بأن دولة فلسطين دولة متأثرة ومن أكثر الدول المتأثرة بتغير المناخ وليست مسببة فيه. شكرا سيد الرئيس.
I thank you for your statement. I see Colombia has asked for the floor. Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias, presidente. Colombia se suma a la declaración realizada en nombre de AILAC. Colombia llega a esta COP de la Amazonía con un mensaje claro: no hay acción climática efectiva sin proteger la biodiversidad y la naturaleza, sin una transición para dejar atrás los combustibles fósiles y sin enfrentar la crisis de la deuda. Primero, sobre la transición para dejar atrás los combustibles fósiles. El mundo acordó en el primer balance mundial que la era de los combustibles fósiles debe llegar a su fin. Ahora debemos pasar del llamado a la implementación. Resultados negociados en esta COP que no incluyan referencias claras a esta transición serán incompatibles con la urgencia de la crisis que enfrentamos. Colombia reconoce el liderazgo del Brasil en el llamado a establecer una hoja de ruta para dejar atrás los combustibles fósiles. Como esfuerzo complementario, Colombia será sede de la primera conferencia internacional sobre la transición para dejar atrás los combustibles fósiles, un esfuerzo que no se adscribe a ninguna iniciativa legal existente. Busca crear un espacio colectivo y abierto para visibilizar y explorar rutas viables que permitan superar los desafíos de esta transición. En segundo lugar, sobre las sinergias entre clima y naturaleza. La naturaleza es necesaria para cumplir con los objetivos climáticos. Bajo el ítem de agenda, cooperación con otras organizaciones internacionales, Colombia propone establecer y mantener un espacio sustantivo dedicado a desarrollar recomendaciones para fortalecer la cooperación y sinergias entre los convenios de Río y otros acuerdos multilaterales para apoyar la implementación de la Convención y el Acuerdo de París. Tercero, sobre financiamiento. El peso de la deuda limita la acción climática en nuestra región. Colombia hace un llamado a que las discusiones sobre financiamiento incluyan mecanismos de financiamiento concesional que no incrementen la deuda y que generen espacio fiscal, así como una reforma profunda de la arquitectura financiera internacional. Cuarto, sobre las personas y la justicia climática, la acción climática debe reconocer y proteger el liderazgo, los derechos y los conocimientos de pueblos indígenas, pueblos afrodescendientes, campesinos y comunidades locales, asegurando mecanismos de financiamiento.
Thank you for your statement. I see that Syria Arab Republic has asked for the floor. Syria, you have the floor.
السيد الرئيس، السادة رؤساء الهيئات واللجان الفرعية المحترمون، الزميلات والزملاء، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. في بداية كلمتي لا يسعني إلا أن أتوجه بالشكر لجمهورية البرازيل الاتحادية على كرم الاستضافة، كما أتوجه بالشكر لأمانة الاتفاقية على جهودها المتميزة في إعداد هذا المؤتمر. إن الجمهورية العربية السورية إذ تشارك في هذا المؤتمر العالمي تؤكد من جديد تمسكها بمبادئ اتفاقية الأمم المتحدة الإطارية بشأن تغير المناخ وكذلك اتفاق باريس. وانطلاقا من واقعنا كدولة تواجه تحديات استثنائية نتيجة التغير المناخي، فإننا نرى أن تحقيق التوازن بين مبادئ العدالة والمسؤوليات المشتركة لكن المتباينة يظل أساسا في تقدم جماعي. إننا نؤمن بأن مسار المفاوضات يجب أن يراعي الخصوصيات الوطنية ويرفض النماذج المفروضة ويتناسب مع الظروف والقدرات الوطنية لكل دولة، معترفا بالمسؤوليات التاريخية للدول المتقدمة في الانبعاثات. كما نعتبر أن تنفيذ القرارات السابقة وتعزيز آليات التكيف والدعم يجب أن يكون في صلب عملنا المشترك. إننا نرفض أي محاولة لفرض أهداف قطاعية أو نماذج موحدة على الدول النامية التي لم تستطع حتى الآن إعداد تقاريرها. ونؤكد أيضا على ضرورة أن يرافق الطموح المناخي دعم مالي وتقني حقيقي للدول النامية دون شروط معقدة أو تحويل التمويل إلى أعباء وديون، مع ضمان وصول عادل للدول النامية وخاصة الدول الأكثر هشاشة والخارجة من النزاع والأقل قدرة على مواجهة تداعيات التغير المناخي إلى صناديق التمويل الدولية. كما نؤكد على أهمية الحفاظ على مبدأ الإجماع في اتخاذ القرار ورفض الإجراءات أحادية الجانب أو فرض انتقالات سريعة لا تراعي الأولويات الوطنية أو توفير سبل الدعم اللازم، وتمثل عائقا حقيقيا أمام الانتقال العادل. السيد الرئيس، نتطلع إلى تحويل هذا المؤتمر إلى زخم حقيقي لتقديم الدعم اللازم للدول ذات الموارد المحدودة وتمكينها من مواجهة تحديات المناخ من خلال إجراءات مبسطة تراعي تخفيف الآثار الاجتماعية والاقتصادية لتدابير الاستجابة ودون المساس بحقها في التنمية. إن سورية وانطلاقا من روح المسؤولية والتعاون بالتوافق مع المجموعة العربية ومجموعة ال77 والصين تعبر عن استعدادها للعمل مع كافة الأطراف من أجل مخرجات عادلة ومتوازنة تخدم مصالح الجميع تضمن الحق في التنمية مع حماية المناخ للأجيال القادمة. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
I thank you for your statement. I see that Timor-Leste has asked for the floor. Timor-Leste, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Let me associate my statement with the statement made by Iraq on behalf of 77 in China, Palau on behalf of EOCs, and Malawi on behalf of LDCs. Timor-Leste has been experiencing various climate change impacts such as flood, drought, landslide, tropical cyclone, and sea level rise. Our socio-economic development has been negatively affected by this impact of climate change. As part of the LDCs and small and developing states, the country has limited capacity in terms of financial, technological, and human capacity to adapt to such an impact. Our contribution to the global greenhouse gas is lower than impacts that we are facing at the moment. We call the developed country parties to fulfill their obligation under the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement to provide finance, technology, and capacity building for us to enable adaptation mitigation actions as well as addressing loss and damage that we are facing at the moment. Climate finance is key for climate actions for all of us. We need to operationalize the 300 billion decided at COP29. This contribution must be new and additional to the current ODA. This scale must include not only adaptation mitigation but also addressing loss and damage. On adaptation, NAPs must be fully funded by public and grant-based financing contributed from developed country parties. Tripling of adaptation financing is urgently required to be decided here at COP30. On global goal on adaptation, we must define indicators on means of implementation towards increasing resilience and reducing vulnerability in the future. On loss and damage, replenishment of fund for responding to loss and damage is critically important to be decided here, since this fund is insufficient to address the needs of developing countries. We welcome the launching of call for funding request held yesterday, and we look forward to get more facilities and communications from the Secretariat to enable us to access to the fund, especially through the direct access through national government. We must finalize the WIM review here in Belem without any delay. On mitigation, Mr. Chairman and President, the mitigation work program needs to come up with a clear decision towards 1.5 degrees Celsius. And the declaration is over and we need to take action now. Thank you very much.
I thank you for your statement. I see Turkey has asked for the floor. Turkey, you have the floor.
Değerli Başkan, çok kıymetli katılımcılar, öncelikle Brezilya hükümetine ve milletine ev sahipliğinden dolayı teşekkür ediyorum. İklim değişikliğinin konuşulduğu bir dönemde değiliz. Artık hayatımızın her alanında hissettiğimiz ve bizzat olumsuz sonuçlarını yaşadığımız bir dönemdeyiz. Amazonlardan Afrika'ya, Afrika'dan Akdeniz'e, Akdeniz'den Pasifik'e uzanan ekolojik zincirin her halkasında iklim krizinin etkileri hissediliyor. Biz meseleleri bölgesel değil, küresel bir sorumluluk anlayışıyla odağımıza alıyoruz. İşte tam da bu yüzden Türkiye olarak COP31'e ev sahipliği yapma isteğimizi sürdürüyoruz. Biz yalnızca COP31'in ev sahipliğine talip değiliz. kapsayıcı, yenilikçi ve adil bir iklim eylemi platformu olarak COP31'i yürütmek istiyoruz. Biz masada olmaktan öte sonuç üretmek için buradayız. Bildiğiniz üzere 2023 yılında yaşadığımız büyük depremlerin ardından sadece yıkılanı onarmadık. Afetlere ve iklim risklerine karşı dirençli kentler inşa ettik. Etmeye de devam ediyoruz. Her zorluğa daha çevreci ve iklim dostu şehirlere dönüşüm için bir araç olarak görüyoruz. Bu vizyon bugünkü tartışmalara da yön verebilecek bir inançtır. Kararlılığımız aynı güçle devam ediyor. Bu ortak vizyonu uygulamaya dönüştüren, tüm paydaşları sürece dahil eden bir COP düzenleme iradesidir. COP30'un açılışında bir araya gelirken ortak dileğimiz bu süreci sadece iyi niyetlerle değil, somut ve dengeli sonuçlarla tamamlamaktır. Türkiye olarak bu zirveden güçlü, adil ve uygulanabilir kararlarla çıkmak istiyoruz. Dünyanın dört bir yanında artan iklim etkileri bize bir gerçeği hatırlatıyor. Artık hedefler değil, uygulama konuşulmalı diyoruz. İklim finansmanı, teknoloji paylaşımı ve kapasite geliştirme mekanizmalarının güçlendirilmesi, iklim eyleminin uygulanması ve Paris Anlaşması'nın hedefine ulaşmasında oldukça önemli uygulama araçlarıdır. Gelin bu süreci birlikte sahiplenelim ve COP30'u sadece toplantı değil, gerçek bir dönüm noktası haline getirelim. Son olarak Etiyopya'yı da COP32 ev sahipliği için tebrik ediyorum, teşekkür ediyorum.
I thank you for your statement. I see that Uruguay has asked for the floor. Uruguay, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Muchas gracias. Uruguay se alinea a las intervenciones realizadas por el G77 más China y Grupo Sur. Uruguay agradece el trabajo de la Presidencia y de todas las partes para conducir este proceso con equilibrio y transparencia. Nos presentamos como un país que ha demostrado una ambición climática estructural con una matriz eléctrica compuesta en un 97% por fuentes renovables y una de las transiciones energéticas más profundas del mundo, pero también como un país altamente vulnerable a los impactos del cambio climático. Sequías prolongadas, eventos extremos, pérdida de biodiversidad afectan nuestra economía, nuestras comunidades y nuestros ecosistemas. Por eso, para Uruguay, la adaptación no es una opción, es una necesidad existencial. En este sentido, consideramos que uno de los principales resultados de esta COP debe ser sobre el marco de Emiratos Árabes Unidos sobre resiliencia climática global relativo al Objetivo Mundial de Adaptación, GGA, mediante la adopción de los indicadores y el trabajo adicional para garantizar su implementación rápida y efectiva. Necesitamos un marco técnico y político robusto con un número manejable de indicadores globales que permitan evaluar el progreso colectivo de manera objetiva, sin perder de vista las circunstancias nacionales. Estos indicadores deben reflejar no solo los resultados en resiliencia y reducción de vulnerabilidades, sino también los medios de implementación, porque la adaptación sin apoyo es limitada. Uruguay subraya la importancia de que el marco final de GGA integre los conocimientos científicos, locales e indígenas, género, derechos humanos y que se oriente hacia el fortalecimiento institucional, la planificación territorial y la inclusión social. Solo así la adaptación dejará de ser un concepto aspiracional y se convertirá en un proceso medible, evaluable y financiado. En materia de transición justa, Uruguay apoya un resultado que consolide un enfoque integral y permanente, capaz de articular las dimensiones social, laboral y territorial de la acción climática con enfoques de derechos humanos, género y generaciones. La transición debe garantizar protección social, trabajo decente, equidad en el acceso a las oportunidades y participación de los actores sociales y territoriales. Sostenemos que esta COP debe avanzar hacia un mecanismo institucional que dé continuidad al programa de trabajo con recursos financieros y cooperación técnica suficientes para respaldar el avance hacia sistemas productivos más sostenibles de forma justa y equitativa. En cuanto a financiamiento climático, Uruguay reitera que la provisión de financiamiento público, concesional y previsible sigue siendo una obligación central bajo el artículo 9.1 del Acuerdo de París. Sostenemos también la importancia de lograr en Belem una actualización del pacto de al menos triplicar la meta de duplicar los flujos de financiamiento de adaptación a partir de 2025. Uruguay reafirma que cumplir los compromisos asumidos es la base sobre la cual se construye la confianza multilateral. Finalmente, Uruguay subraya que esta COP debe adoptar el nuevo plan de acción en género, integrar la igualdad de género y los derechos humanos en todas las áreas del trabajo en cambio climático. No es un gesto simbólico, es una condición de eficiencia, transparencia y legitimidad. Uruguay reafirma su compromiso en la acción climática debe ser basada en la ciencia, la equidad y la cooperación.
I thank you for your statement. I see that China has asked for the floor. China, you have the floor.
谢谢主席。中国代表团感谢巴西政府和人民为本次会议成功召开所做的贡献。中国代表团也支持伊拉克代表77国集团以及印度代表 BASIC 和 AL15 所做的发言。主席，从这次会大家的期望，特别是发展中国家都是期盼着能够来积极回应并妥善解决发展中国家长期以来面临的有关资金短缺、气候资金短缺、能力建设不足的问题。同时也是希望能够推动国家间的公正转型，不能够让任何一个国家掉队。同时也解决发展中国家目前面临的有关单边措施、贸易保护主义的这些新的问题。希望能够为所有的缔约方，尤其是发展中国家、全球南方为全面推动巴黎协定的履行，来营造一个良好的外部环境。中国代表团将落实好习近平主席提出的全球治理倡议，特别是在2次气候峰会上所做的重要发言，来与各方一道，展现出积极建设性，全力支持大会主席国和工业秘书处按照公开透明、广泛参与、缔约方驱动、协商一致的要求，来推动贝伦大会取得成功。谢谢主席。
Thank you for your statement. I will now invite oral reports from UN and other intergovernmental organizations. Please keep your interventions to 2 minutes. I would like to invite Abdallah Moskit from the Secretariat of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, to provide a statement. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Dear Chair, first of all, IPCC want to thank Brazil and the city of Belem, and also UNFCCC for the invitation and hosting this COP. Mr. President, I want to intervene for 3 points. The first one is related to steady progress IPCC has achieved. Second, the new improvement in our activity in IPCC with 7th cycle. And the third is about the vital necessity for new contribution, financial contribution, scientific contribution to ensure the sustainability of the activity of IPCC. Concerning the steady progress, I am pleased to inform you that the 7th cycle started well, and we informed that all the reports have been fully scoped and they are in good stages in progress. And the entire scientific content of the report has been agreed upon by the panel. The key scientific issues and knowledge gaps have been identified. More than 660 scientists will gather for the first time in the history of IPCC in the joint lead author meeting in Paris, first week of December. The first draft or the draft of special report on climate change and cities is currently undergoing. The methodology report on short-lived climate forcer concluded its second lead author meeting, and also with the agreed scope of methodology report on carbon dioxide removal technology, carbon capture, utilization and storage will now be seeking nomination voters.
I thank you for your statement. I now invite a statement from Collaborative Partnership on Forests, CPF. Statement by Collaborative Partnership on All Forests will be delivered by FAO as the chair, represented by Amy Duchel. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. This statement is delivered on behalf of the Collaborative Partnership on Forests and its 16 member organizations. Forests have multi-functions and provide solutions to many global challenges, including climate change, environmental degradation, biodiversity loss, food insecurity, and poverty. As emphasized in the first global stocktake of the Paris Agreement, greater efforts must be made to halt and reverse deforestation and forest degradation by 2030 and increase forest area worldwide if we are to achieve the 2030 global forest-related goals and targets. The good news is that deforestation rate declined in all regions in the most recent decade, as shown by the Global Forest Resources Assessment 2025, just released by FAO on 21st of October. But at 10.9 million hectares of forests lost per year, including an estimated 1.61 million hectares of irreplaceable primary forests, the rate is still far too high. Wildfires, pests, disease, and extreme weather are also damaging about 170 million hectares of forests annually. Bold, urgent, and innovative actions are needed to prevent forests from turning from carbon sinks into sources of emissions. This would also protect the various environmental and economic benefits, including jobs, that forests offer. In this context, the CPF welcomes the strategic emphasis of COP30 and the COP30 presidency on forests, including the Tropical Forest Forever facility and the call to action on integrated fire management and wildfire resilience. The CPF stands ready to support parties and work with all stakeholders, including Indigenous peoples, local communities, youth, and women in their efforts to achieve forest and climate goals. Thank you.
I thank you for your statement. I ask the speakers, NGOs, when we give you the floor, press the microphone once so that the technician can press you in the right place. I now invite Roel Hondas from the International Maritime Organization to make a statement. You have the floor.
Chair, let me firstly congratulate the Brazilian presidency and the entire UNFCCC Secretariat for the successful organization of this COP. In 2023, IMO member states unanimously adopted IMO strategy on the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships, shaping international cooperation to decarbonize shipping and laying out a pathway towards net zero emissions to be achieved by or around 2050. Since the adoption of the 2023 strategy, IMO member states have been actively assessing and developing the regulatory measures required to implement the greenhouse gas emission reduction targets set in the IMO climate strategy. In April of this year, IMO's main environmental organ, the Marine Environment Protection Committee, finalized and approved the IMO Net Zero Framework, a set of new regulations comprising of a technical element, namely a global marine fuel standard, regulating the phased reduction of a marine fuel's greenhouse gas intensity and an emission pricing mechanism. The text of these draft amendments to IMO's main instrument, MARP 1X6, were circulated with a view to adoption at a session held in October 2025. In considering the draft amendments, the second session of the MEPC agreed to adjourn the session for a period of 1 year. This adjournment will enable further efforts to forge broader consensus around IMO's net set of regulations and reconciling remaining differences and respond to the concerns of member states, including any necessary adjustments to supporting measures. President, IMO enhances technical cooperation and capacity building initiatives dedicated to climate action in the shipping sector, and we do that with a view to leaving nobody behind in the transition of shipping. Thank you very much.
I thank you for your statement. I now invite Jane Hupp from International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, to provide a statement. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. ICAO's Triennial Assembly was held last month with record attendance of 192 out of our 193 member states and concluded with stronger signal yet of commitment and unity on ICAO's leadership for international aviation.
This overwhelming support stems from decades of hard and continuous technical work culminating on ICAO's robust global regulatory framework and databases that underpins the 3 ICAO Global Collective Goals for international aviation. The Assembly praised the concrete results from the ICAO capacity building programs such as ACT-SAF and ACT-CORSIA, and on financing with the creation of the Finvest Hub and the launching of the ICAO Arena platform, providing aviation clean energy projects direct access to 14 financial institutions. The message from the Assembly was clear. Despite very good results, action needed to be accelerated for the sectors to reach its goals. CORSIA has been operational for 7 years, and it's on track, with 130 volunteer states participating. The ICAO Council recently approved additional programs ensuring the availability and integrity of CORSIA-eligible units. ICAO calls on governments to issue letters of authorization to facilitate access to CORSIA-eligible emission units by airport operators. On ICAO objective to reduce 5% of international aviation emissions by 2030 by the acceleration of the deployment and use of aviation cleaner energy, substantial progress is being made, as reflected in the ICAO Cleaner Energy Tracker tools. We are steadily advancing approval and sustainability certification of new feedstocks and conversion processes under CORSIA. Under the ACT-SAF, 11 feasibility studies supporting SAF production in developing states have been completed, with target 50 by 2028. Following the LTAG adoption at the last Assembly, the methodology to track progress towards net zero was developed and approved. Mr. Chair,
I thank you. I now would like to invite Kelsey Gray from Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, speaking on behalf of the committee and on behalf of the Coordination Group for Meteorological Satellites. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to give a warm thanks to the subsidiary body for scientific and technological advice for hosting us today, and it's a distinct pleasure to be here with you all. The Commonwealth of Australia, on behalf of the Committee on Earth Observation Satellites and the Coordination Group for Meteorological Satellites, and as the new Chair of CEOS, is pleased to provide this annual report to Zubstar. CEOS and CGMS, comprising 69 members, coordinate civilian satellite observations to provide an accurate, transparent and accessible view of the Earth system. These satellite observations play a crucial role in advancing our understanding of Earth's energy balance, forests and agricultural change, ice loss, sea level rise and greenhouse gas concentrations. This year, as we mark the International Year of Glaciers Preservation, satellite and in situ observations reveal that glaciers have lost more than 9,000 gigatons of water since 1976, nearly half in just the past decade. Meanwhile, over 30 years of satellite altimetry show a global mean sea level rise of about 10 centimetres since 1993. CEOS and CGMS are implementing strategies to make Earth observation data more accessible and tailored for policymakers, supporting climate agreement assessments and providing the data needed by this conference, participants and wider society. Continued international collaboration and investment are essential to deepen understanding, improve decision-making and strengthen responses to our planet's growing environmental challenges. Thank you.
I thank you. I will now invite Albert Fischer to make statements on behalf of 3 organizations, but this is how it will happen. You will speak 3 times, and each time will be 2 minutes. We will cut you off and you come back again 3 times because the system is designed that way. And these organizations are the World Meteorological Organization, Global Climate Observing System, World Climate Research Program. Albert, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. The World Meteorological Organization, along with its co-sponsored bodies, the IPCC, GCOS, and the WCRP, continues to contribute climate observations and scientific information to support parties. The WMO Greenhouse Gas Bulletin reported that the concentration of carbon dioxide in 2024 was 53% above pre-industrial levels at 423.9 parts per million. The jump from 2023 to 2024, 3.5 parts per million, was the largest recorded increase since modern measurements started in 1957. The WMO State of Climate Update issued last week indicates that January to August 2025 has been 1.42 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial average. This makes it clear that it will be virtually impossible to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next few years without temporarily overshooting this target. The WMO State of Global Water Resources report showed that the water cycle continues to become increasingly erratic, with only 1/3 of river basins worldwide with normal stream flow conditions. There is some positive news in our response. The Early Warnings for All initiative is moving forward with pace. Since 2015, the number of countries reporting multi-hazard early warning systems has more than doubled, from 56 to 119. However, 40% of countries still lack early warning systems, and urgent action is needed to close these remaining gaps. The United Nations Systematic Observations Financing Facility, SOF, which WMO hosts, is innovating climate financing through the Systematic Observations Impact Bond that will be announced by the COP presidency this week. And as of September, the Climate Risk and Early Warning System Initiative, CRUISE, has mobilized $150 million. It has leveraged an additional $890 million through its partners, improving early warning access and services for 397 million people in climate-vulnerable countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. You have the floor again for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair and distinguished delegates. For 33 years, the Global Climate Observing System, GCOS, has provided the foundation for global climate monitoring, setting the framework for high-quality, reliable data essential to understand, predict, and act on climate change. GCOS works across all domains of the Earth system: atmosphere, ocean, land, hydrology, and cryosphere, coordinating the observation of essential climate variables that support the aims of this convention and the Paris Agreement. Today, we must sound the alarm. The continuity of systematic observations is under growing threat, from declining in-situ networks, uncertain follow-on satellite missions, to barriers to data access, including historical data. These losses jeopardize our collective capacity to monitor the climate system and to track progress, as required by numerous Framework Convention areas of work. Recognizing this urgency, GCOS is preparing its next status report and implementation plan to be released together early in 2027, directly informing the next global stocktake and guiding needed investment in sustained climate observations. Yet GCOS itself now faces an existential challenge. Without new and sustained financial support, the GCOS Secretariat will cease operations in 2027, ending the only mechanism that holistically assesses and coordinates global climate observations across all domains and the full value data chain, from rescue to provision. For the first time, we appeal to parties for urgent and sustained support to safeguard the global observing system and the GCOS program that serves us. In the spirit of Mutirao, the collective effort that inspires COP30, let us act together to preserve the observational foundation for climate action and for the benefit of all and for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. You have the 2 final minutes. You have the floor, Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm reading the statement on behalf of the World Climate Research Program. It is the primary international body with a focus on generating climate knowledge and as such makes fundamental contributions to humankind's ability to understand and predict climate change. WCRP is working on an authoritative assessment that will systematically assess our understanding of threshold breaching, irreversibility, and tipping points in the Earth's climate system, including the Amazon. The paper will also provide key recommendations for how Earth system models can be improved to better understand these processes and identify potential early warnings. WCRP has started a series of status briefs to translate the latest climate science into actionable insights for policymakers. Each brief summarizes cutting-edge research, highlights risks and opportunities, and supports evidence-based climate decision-making. The first of these briefs is focused on current understanding of global sea level rise. The preparation of WCRP's coupled model intercomparison project, next phase, CMIP7, is proceeding as input to new climate insights that will subsequently be assessed by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. WCRP's Lighthouse activity, Digital Earth, is coordinating 1-kilometer scale modeling efforts in combination with high-resolution observational results to enhance insight into climate dynamics on regional and local scale. WCRP's Academy, with a support unit hosted by the Manila Observatory in the Philippines, is the research, training, advisory, and coordination arm of WCRP's capacity building activities.
I thank you for your assessment. I will now hand over to the SBI Chair to introduce statements from NGO observers. Julia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Adonia. I now open the floor for statements from the observer organisations. Please limit your statements to 2 minutes. When a constituency has 2 speakers, the time will be shared between them. I give the floor to the Indigenous Peoples organisations. You have the floor.
Kahuti. We celebrate this first COP held in the Amazon. However, the lack of commitment and ambition from parties has brought us to irreversible tipping points. The presidency calls it the COP of implementation, yet we are still experiencing colonization in our territories with the expansion of fossil fuels, including in the Amazon, mining for transition minerals, carbon trading, the agribusiness industry, nuclear energy and uranium extraction, geoengineering, and large-scale renewable energy infrastructure. This perpetuates conflict, displacement, destruction, and contamination of our sacred place, as well as a persecution, criminalization, and murder of our relatives. Well, we demand that all climate action must be carried out with full respect for the rights of indigenous peoples, including our right to self-determination, free, prior, and informed consent, and the protection of lands, waters, and territories. We, therefore, make the following recommendations. The Just Transition Work Program must uphold international human rights standards, including UNDRIP, explicitly protect indigenous peoples in voluntary isolation and initial contact, and redress the impact of the extractive model, ensure direct, flexible, and culturally appropriate access to all forms of climate financing, considering our own financial mechanisms, acknowledge indigenous women, youth, and persons with disabilities' contributions to climate action and ensure their meaningful participation, ensure full and effective representation and participation in all decision-making process, legal security of our territories, governance structures, and knowledge systems, especially in the SCOP, in NDCs and NAPs. This is an indigenous COP, and we are distinct right holders and protectors.
Thank you for your statement. I give the floor to a representative speaking on behalf of the local governments and municipal authorities. You have the floor.
Mr. President, distinguished delegates, my name is Rafael Fonteles, Governor of the State of Piauí in Brazil. Piauí is one of the pioneer states in the northeast region of Brazil that has completed its climate action plan. I am delivering this statement in my capacity as the President of Consortium Nordeste on behalf of the LGMA constituents, including under two coalition. I would also like to thank CICLAY for its support. Global community welcomes the multilateral spirit of COP30 presidents and has come to Belem with a unit voice. Last week in Rio, thousands of mayors and governors announced what they can offer as solutions to national leaders. These include good practice for multi-level collaboration in national climate plans, accelerating mitigation and adaptation actions through localized finance and deepening partnerships. The LGMA position translates these solutions into COP30 negotiation documents. And cities and regions hub will be the space where we will exchange and advance. All these efforts converge for one concrete goal. COP30 in Belem must lay the foundation of a strong legacy for multi-level and urban collaboration in the new era of climate action. This Belem legacy will enable to UNFCCC community to welcome IPCC special reporting seats in 2027. This Belem legacy will ensure a holistic, integrated work program under the UNFCCC by the start of second global stocktake in 2028. At COP30 in Belem, towns, cities, and states of the world are ready to help nations turn this new page. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. I give the floor to a representative speaking on behalf of the research and independent non-governmental organisations. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to address this plenary on behalf of Ringo. My name is Pam Pearson, Director of the International Cries for Climate Initiative. Ringo appreciates everyone's dedication to advancing the global climate effort. The fact that the world is gathering here in Belem shows that global collaboration is the way to address global challenges. But just being here is not enough. Results matter more. We look forward to significant progress across all items at this conference. These proceedings must continue enhancing the conditions for implementation of the Paris Agreement, in particular the NDCs, the global stocktake, adaptation, finance, and Article 6. Ringo would like to stress the importance of transparent, inclusive, and cooperative decision-making and policies based on multidisciplinary, modern, and sound science, including social sciences and humanities, aligned with indigenous, traditional, and local community knowledge. Let me highlight 4 issues of particular relevance to Ringo. First, on arrangements for intergovernmental meetings, we encourage parties to continue the effort from the SBs to consider the impact of party overflow on inclusivity and accessibility. On research and systematic observation, we appreciated the various presentations yesterday at the 17th Earth Information Day. Ringos are ready to provide expertise to support this work stream. On the global stocktake, we expect parties to enhance the flow of research and scientific information. As Ringos, we have knowledge and insights readily available to ground this process in sound science. On Article 6, Ringos salute the rapid development of stringent rules for the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism. We note with concern that some parties may use Article 6 as a substitute for domestic mitigation, and that initial reports under Article 6.2 are of variable quality.
Thank you for your statement. I give the floor to a representative speaking on behalf of trade unions, non-governmental organisations. You have the floor.
Boa tarde a todos e todas, prezados delegados. Eu sou Rosalina Amorim, sou secretária de Meio Ambiente da CUT Brasil, falo em nome do Movimento Sindical Global, em nome de todos os trabalhadores. Dou-lhes as boas-vindas ao meu país e à minha terra. Aqui na Amazônia, estamos sendo duramente atingidos pelos impactos das mudanças climáticas. O calor crescente está matando pessoas. O desmatamento e a poluição estão destruindo nosso modo de vida, colocando em risco nossa sobrevivência, e o movimento sindical global vem a Belém com a esperança nos olhos e no coração. Esta COP, realizada no coração da Amazônia, precisa levar as pessoas a sério. Estamos pedindo que esta seja a COP da transição justa, uma transição justa que coloque os direitos humanos e trabalhadores no centro do debate sobre políticas climáticas. Proteger e promover direitos trabalhistas, como o diálogo social e a negociação coletiva, a proteção social, a saúde e segurança no trabalho. É o que vai conquistar a confiança dos trabalhadores e trabalhadoras e fortalecer a implementação das políticas climáticas. As trabalhadoras e os trabalhadores do mundo demandam uma decisão urgente de vocês pela criação do Mecanismo da Ação de Belém para a Transição Justa, o BAM. E, por fim, queridos e queridas delegadas, a ação climática também significa, por fim, a violência, as guerras, aos conflitos e a repressão em todos os lugares. Parem com a violência e a fome contra civis. Não há justiça climática sem direitos humanos. Sejam muito bem-vindos a Belém.
Thank you for your statement. I give the floor to a representative speaking on behalf of the Women and Gender constituency. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Michele Ferretti, and I deliver this statement on behalf of the Women and Gender constituency. We gather here in Belem, the heart of the Amazon, as feminists and people's movement around the world are standing against extractivism, militarization, and the financing of destruction that threatens both people and the planet. From this region, our sisters and siblings remind us that there is no future without justice. We'll never be complacent in small gestures towards progress, while defenders of life are murdered, while women and girls are silenced and displaced by the same systems that created this crisis. We stand in unwavering solidarity with oppressed communities worldwide. We recognize from Haiti's leadership in abolishing slavery in the region to the Palestinian resistance against apartheid and genocide, the same cry for self-determination that resonates in our mountains and oceans. We bring the voices of those defending rivers and forests, of the women who feed their communities with ancestral feeds, of the youth and indigenous leaders, people of African descent, demanding that our bodies and territories are not for sale. At this COP, we expect governments to deliver a strong action-oriented gender action plan that moves from commitment to implementation, connecting gender equality across all areas of climate, finance, technology, adaptation, and just transition. We demand feminist just transition built to care, consent, sovereignty, not another wave of extraction painted green. We urge parties to scale up non-debt, grant-based climate finance accessible directly to women and community organizations. Climate finance must become an instrument of reparation and justice, not only another mechanism of control. We advance the global goal and adaptation. Let us ensure that the people most impacted are the ones defining what resilience looks like. The gender-responsive indicators and disaggregated data guide every decision, and that our collective efforts are measured by how they transform lives, not by how they protect markets. Feminists come to Belém not only to resist rollbacks, but to reimagine what
Thank you very much for your statement. I give the floor to two representatives speaking on behalf of the children and youth non-governmental organisations. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your Excellencies, I deliver this statement on behalf of Children and Youth constituency. We stand before you all as the voice of children and youth worldwide and the voices closest to future generations not yet here, calling for a full, fast fossil fuel phase-out to usher in an era of climate justice, reparations, and action. These negotiations aren't just about today's politics. They are about our legacy and our future. It is about the air, the forest, the sun, and the ozone of clean water. From the Congo Basin to the Amazon forest, we are here to share our gratitude to the people of Amazonia, and with the stewardship these plants and fought back. And we stand with you as we continue to fight within this halls. Mr. President, we call for an adaptation package that adopts a full list of child and youth-sensitive indicators, accompanied by a new adaptation finance commitment to tripling the Glasgow's pledge that is ambitious, grant-based, and responsive to the needs of developing countries. We demand that COP30 operationalize the UAE dialogue to focusing on intergenerational cooperation around implementation and finalizing the GST modalities at COP30 in line with what we agreed in Dubai. We call on parties to adopt an ambitious just transition package consisting of just principles including labor and human rights, FPIC, intergenerational equity, and international cooperation. We also call for a nature program that will continue to cover COP30 decision to operationalize Article 5 and ensure nature considerations that are embedded into the NDCs, NAPs, and NBSAPs for a joint program across the Rio Convention. Not that we have reached 3 decades of COP30, which fossil fuel lobbyists continue to attend, we call for a conflict of interest policy and UNFCCC that supports accountability against the influence of corporate sectors. Science must be sent.
Thank you very much for your statement. I give the floor to a representative speaking on behalf of business and industry non-governmental organisations. You have the floor.
Hi.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gabriela Dorliac. I'm the Executive Director of the International Chamber of Commerce in Brazil, and it is my honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the global business community. We sincerely thank the government of Brazil and its people for the warm welcome. We gather here to prove that the spirit of the Paris Agreement is not only alive, but also driving a new era of action. Since Paris, business has driven a wave of climate innovation and solutions and demonstrated time and again its readiness to invest. But progress is hitting the limits of current market signals. This COP matters more than ever, and 3 outcomes are essential in this regard. First, investment-ready national plans. A firm recommitment from all countries to deliver robust new NDCs aligned with 1.5 degrees, anchored in growth, energy security, and industrial competitiveness is critical. Co-designed with businesses, they can give investors the clarity and confidence they need. Second, a global goal on the adaptation that drives private investment. This private sector can scale resilience, but only if the business case is clear. Finally, and most critical, turning the Baku to Belem roadmap into a real finance implementation plan, underpinned by political commitment to remove regulatory barriers that prevent private capital from flowing to developing countries. Also, robust carbon markets remain essential to mobilize investment. Governance and confidence in Article 6 is a priority as the right balance between integrity and opportunity. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, this COP must also mark a new era of cooperation, one that rises above uncoordinated policies and delivers real lasting climate solutions. We are here to work with you to make this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to representatives of environmental NGOs. You have the floor.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We are told that this COP is the COP of truth. Climate Action Network will speak plainly. The truth is, we live in a time of deep injustice where power and wealth are concentrated in few hands. We have a system that allows the few to oppress, occupy, and extract from the majority of humanity, too often with the complicity of the governments seated in this almost empty, as usually, room. When we speak, of course. Let's be clear, confronting the climate crisis is impossible without a strong steer on justice and guarantee accountability, especially of developed countries that continue to escape their responsibilities and obligations with impunity. In face with this process, we are demanding, let's have no mistake, there is no climate justice without human rights.
I'm Shananin, Indigenous Ingiwa, speaking on behalf of DCJ. I declare we have no direct ties with any fossil fuel or big ag companies or Zionist entities. We, the land defenders and youth from the climate movement, who traveled all across Mexico and Central America to get here as a Mesoamerican caravan for climate and life, we demand justice for our communities, facing threats from the climate crisis and the industries creating it. Because in our region, defending life costs life itself. We demand an end to all extractivism, from fossil fuels to renewables, in mining, in agribusiness, in false solutions that profit from the sacrifice of our territories. The financialization of life is not a solution, but the problem. Every carbon bond, offset mechanism, continues plundering under a new name. We demand global north countries provide urgent, new, additional grant-based public climate finance to fill the loss and damage.
Thank you for your statement. I give the floor to a representative speaking on behalf of farmers' non-governmental organisations. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Mailen Salucio, speaking on behalf of the Farmers' Constituency. Agriculture is in the front line of climate impacts, yet it holds significant potential for adaptation and mitigation that remains largely unrecognized and underfunded. For COP30 to connect climate ambition with farmers' realities, we call for a just rural transition that leaves no farmer behind, reflecting the realities of rural economies and farming systems, and advancing bottom-up solutions combining innovation and traditional knowledge. Farmers' engagement in turning NDCs from abstract targets into real-world solutions, bringing us closer to implementing the first GST. A shift in how climate finance is designed and delivered, making it available, accessible, and predictable for all farmers, leveraging farmers' organizations and cooperatives as direct and trusted channels and intermediaries. A global goal on adaptation, capturing adaptation on farm, reflecting the diversity of agroecosystems and tracking finance, enabling recovery and resilience. A clear course for the next phase of the Sharm joint work on agriculture, so that it remains relevant and solution-oriented. We stand ready to work with you all to co-create a sustainable future for our communities and the planet.
Thank you very much for your statement. Distinguished delegates, colleagues, this brings us to the end of the joint plenary. I hereby adjourn the second meeting of the SPI.
I hereby adjourn the second meeting of Substa. I now hand over back to the President. Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you. I hereby adjourn the joint second meeting of the COP. The second meeting of the CMP is also adjourned. And the second meeting of the CMA is also adjourned.